Fake news.
Mr. President.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Mr. President.
Fake
I just want to have one thing to say.
Fake news,
Mr.
no.
President,
Very
I'm trying to
fake
get a word
news.
edgewise here.
Fake news put out by
Mr.
fake
President,
news.
it's
Fake
not...
news is trying to say good things
Mr. President, it's
about
not
it.
fake news just because you don't like it.
A few days ago, fake news called...
Enough! Each and every Tuesday, the Journey into Comics Network brings you the real news with the Puhr Report, with the late-breaking news that really matters.
The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics, the podcast about everything nerd, with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stone.
We've come a long way from the Prime Minister's exploding cake. Or have we?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Journey into Comics. It's Journey into Comics, episode 189. I am your host, Nate, and today I am joined by my very special guest. She averages out to about one appearance every 10 or 11 episodes. Last week would have been the 10th, or like perfectly 10, but welcome back again to Journey into Comics. V, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here today. We're not really going to waste any time like catching up and bullshitting because there's one thing on everyone's mind.
This week, yeah.
Yeah, Infinity War just dropped. I've seen it twice. We went and saw it premiere night. Mm-hmm. We're going to do something kind of different today, folks. You're going to hear a lot of different people across the network on this one episode. Very much like Infinity War. It's going to kind of be piecemealed together in a very interesting...
Everyone has their own segments.
Correct. In a very interesting way. We're all telling the story in our own way. So, first and foremost, I want to mention that we are going to do a segment that's spoiler-free. So you guys are all going to have the opportunity to at least get our opinions of the movie without us giving any of the plot details away, without spoiling any of the crazy surprises that are in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's just an opportunity for us to, give you what we think. So anyways, I want to know, V, right out of the gate, thoughts on this movie? What things did you like? What things did you not like within the bigger picture and not all the details?
Well, I told you when we saw it that I thought this was probably the best Marvel movie that's come out yet to date. And you agreed with me, right?
Absolutely. It's fantastic. This movie kind of, I said it on a Facebook post, it does a really good job of being three movies in one movie. Right.
It's telling separate storylines simultaneously throughout the whole thing.
Which are also interwoven by, like, obviously one very specific character.
Thanos.
Which is Thanos and
right.
his first appearance.
I liked how they did that, though, because it gave a lot of different it gave a lot of different characters opportunities to interact with other characters that they haven't introduced to each other yet, you know?
Totally.
Like with Guardians and Tony Stark and, like, I don't know.
We'll get into the spoilers
later.
Yeah. But what you mean to say is the first time interactions with a lot of these different characters and showing up in places you wouldn't expect or you haven't seen them yet.
Right. That was really cool.
And epic in and of
It made
itself.
it feel different and less formulaic, less like a typical Marvel movie.
Definitely.
It's definitely evolving and worth watching.
Yes. So right now you and I are recording from nowhere. And that's we'll get into, there's another one of those coming up later I can't wait for, from space.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay,
that's for if you've seen the movie.
So overarching, I want your opinion of this movie as in like, okay, I'll go first in this to give you kind of how I feel. So when I think about this movie without spoiling any of the details within it, I think about the bigger picture and I think about what I can say. And I think Thanos is a very driven character. He is very cerebral.
He's one of your favorite villains, yeah? Wasn't he in your comic book pick?
He's my all-time favorite Marvel villain.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you've been jazzed on this movie for a long time.
Okay, back in 2012 when he was turning around and just grinning and was a nobody essentially,
It was kind of shitty CGI, yeah.
Yeah, they were not, because they were uncertain of what exact. I mean, I think they knew and they had a plan. Obviously, the movie in Avengers is set as Thanos sends Loki to Earth to retrieved the Tesseract. They already have the Mind Stone. I guess Thanos didn't realize that. He had 2 of the stones already at that point. Like, almost didn't realize it or whatever, but obviously Loki's thwarted. The Tesseract is not sent to Thanos. And, well...
It was sent to Asgard, right?
Correct. So then what gets set in motion next is in Age of Ultron, right? And Tony touches the scepter and gets the visions of the future where everybody's down and dead.
Yeah, that was dark.
And he's haunted by that. And we'll get into that later as well. And then, of course, Thanos in that movie, fine, I'll do it myself, and grabbing the gauntlet for the first time, knowing, oh my God, he's on his mission, like we're about to get into this, you know. Then the next time we see him is in Guardians. Or actually, I think it was, I think it might have been the other way around, actually. He was in Guardians first, then Avengers came out right after.
Okay.
Yeah, Guardians September 14, Avengers May of 15.
Okay.
That's my math. Anyways, I
I
think
can quote him on that.
overall this movie is, I said it to Dad when we went in to go see it yesterday. I prefaced it to you guys before we saw it on Thursday. It's brutal.
Yeah, that was a brutal movie. But going into it knowing that it was brutal, I felt more prepared.
Yeah, because it allows you to kind of get immersed in, okay, well, shit's going to go wrong. Or, you know, things might not go how we were expecting.
This is what we've been waiting for, people.
And it definitely does a great job to just give like a rapid review. I think it's a perfect movie. Because it
really?
Does, well, and let me explain why. It touches on drama. It touches on comedy. It gives you heartbreak. It makes you think the absolute worst thing could happen and takes it away in an instant. And then in the exact opposite, you think that nothing bad could happen and gut-wrenching moments happen. It leaves you consistently on the edge of your seat. And
This movie was totally full throttle from the beginning. It was
jump.
like, oh, okay, here we are. It's on.
Yeah,
and
like,
it didn't stop.
It's an almost 3-hour movie we sat through, and it doesn't feel like it.
No, it didn't feel like it.
Like, you're just immersed in it, and...
I was super pissed that we waited so long, before the movie to start, because we wanted to make sure we got good seats. So, like, all my snacks were gone before the movie even started.
We were talking about that, yeah. We should actually talk about that, too, before we actually get deep into, because at some point, folks, like I said, we are going to give away spoilers. We're going to be like, hey, at this point, you should probably stop listening.
Yeah, we'll cue.
We'll
give you a cue.
You'll understand how it's all going to work. So we could talk about the movie-going experience, because there were some interesting things that happened. Conversations, people were nerding out all around us. The vibe was very energetic with nerddom and happiness and excitement for this movie.
Yeah, everybody was super jazzed to be there.
It was a very raucous crowd, though.
Yeah, it was hard to hear some of the, like, during the comedic parts when everybody was laughing. It was hard to pick up on any of the lines after.
And here's one thing
But it made it fun,
It was interesting, too, because every time one of the major characters made their first appearance on screen, the crowd popped.
Yeah.
Like...
Everybody, you included, everybody was clapping.
Yeah.
And
you have to. When Wakanda showed up, I was like, they're in Wakanda. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
like,
everybody
time,
was cheering.
Like, the movie is...
That was a fun movie to go see, but it was definitely brutal, so be prepared for that.
Yeah, and it's weird because... And maybe, I don't know if I'm like the darkness in me because of how much I love Thanos and his story. Seeing it a second time it solidified how much I believe in this movie. As first of all, it's the perfect Marvel movie because it ties so many. I mean, we'll get in again. No spoilers right now, but there are so many things they tie in across the board, across the whole spectrum of Marvel, from little one-liners that were said in other movies to major moments you never expected to happen to surprise appearances that blow your fucking mind. Like they hit it on the head. I feel like at this point, though, it would be silly to say like, oh, a casual moviegoer wouldn't know what they were getting into. I don't think a casual moviegoer would go to see that with the expectation of knowing everything. Like they would almost just go, okay, let me get immersed in whatever the story is if they don't know the
right.
MCU.
Yeah, you don't have to have seen any of the other movies to, take away something from this movie.
Exactly. Like you could get lost in that story regardless of
it was good.
Knowing the ins and outs. And I know that because Dad missed like 3 of the most important Marvel movies.
Oh,
he
yeah?
missed Black Panther, he missed Civil War, and he missed Doctor Strange.
Oh, damn.
Now, they're all on me, obviously, because I'm the one that shows him stuff. But I thought he had told me he had seen Civil War, and I thought we tried to watch Doctor Strange, and he just wouldn't get into it. He didn't believe that it was going to be an awesome movie.
Doctor Strange was an awesome movie.
It definitely starts slow, and then when it picks
and I
up,
love
you're
Doctor
like,
Strange in Infinity War.
absolutely. Benedict Cumberbatch is amazing. And that's
Yeah.
another thing, too. They're so clever how they utilized that cast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing. The way they orchestrate this movie is...
They've hit their stride, that's for sure.
But not only did
they're
they...
in their prime.
I mean, cinematic history, the way they told this narrative, it's never been done like that before on such a grandiose scale. Mm-hmm. I mean, the amount of star power in that movie. I mean, there was actually a surprise star that makes an appearance in that movie that did no press for this movie, could not talk about his role or do anything of the like with this movie. And when you find out who it is, you're just like, what the... how in the... That's crazy, you know what I'm saying? So, anyways, raucous crowd, they're clapping and cheering and going crazy. But it was awesome. The whole experience was great. There was maybe one or two moments, like, there's the trailer moment, so this is not a spoiler, this is something people have seen. The trailer moment where Quill is talking to Tony.
Yeah.
And he goes, your plan is good, except it sucks, so maybe I should do the plan, and then it might be really good.
Right.
And the kids behind us were, like, loudly quoting it, and I was like, you're kind of taking me out of it, guys. Like,
Yeah.
shut up. But I didn't want to snap at them, because they were super cool before the movie, nerding out and, you know, asking questions, because it seemed like I knew what I was talking about, at least in some capacity. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'd given my loose opinions.
You being
but,
the social butterfly.
yeah, well, that's who I am. But what do you think on the flip? I've called this movie essentially flawless in how it delivers its narrative, and it serves a purpose and can be taken from any aspect. I also feel like it's safe to say that now there's not really many people out there, I think, that haven't seen the Marvel Universe. Like,
Right.
they're
I mean,
too-
who hasn't seen Infinity War yet? I mean,
Do you want the numbers before you give your review, or do you want the
actually, we
review?
haven't even talked about the numbers. You were telling me that this is like one of the biggest movies in history or something.
Let's bring up this historic shit, because this is like
They beat all the records.
No. For most of this, they destroyed records. Some of it, they barely beat records. So it's very interesting. Okay, that's the international. I want the... All the records Infinity War has broken so far. Thanks so much to our friends over at comicbook.com for calling up this article where it's all the source material for all the news we want to cover. So let's break it down. It opened on Thursday, $39 million.
Opening night.
Opening night on Thursday. The next night it does $106 million on Friday, opening day. Mm-hmm. 81 on Saturday and 61 on Sunday. So it hits $250 million domestic, beating The Force Awakens. The biggest, like, oh my god, Star Wars is coming back, man.
Right.
And Avengers just topped that.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. So that's pretty incredible. But here's the full breakdown of everything they have done. To recap, Infinity War is now the record holder of biggest domestic opening of all time, biggest international opening of all time, biggest superhero opening of all time, biggest Saturday of all time in North America, biggest Sunday of all time in North America, biggest opening of all time in 7 other international markets, and it still is not yet released in the second largest market, China,
Oh, wow.
and Russia,
Damn.
which is the 14th largest market. So this movie is
It's on track to make a fuck ton of money.
records away, I mean, before this is all said and done. And it received an A from CinemaScore. Rotten Tomatoes heralded it as certified fresh. It gets like 89%. I don't think I've seen very many people say sour things about this movie, but the people that do, like, I want to just address this really quick. The people that do are kind of like, they seem like they're just haters because they don't say anything of substance, and then like you substantiate and go, hey, what you're saying, I appreciate your opinion, but however, here's proof in the movie that what you're saying is definitely not true. Like, here's all this cool character building and backstory and where all this interconnectivity lies. And they go, oh, that's not true. That didn't happen in the movie at all. What? Now you're just talking crazy. Like, you're not hearing what's actually going on, and that's you.
Haters gonna hate.
Exactly. Hate is gonna hate. So anyways, are you a hater of this movie? What do you think?
Well, on that note, no, I'm not a hater on this movie. I enjoyed this movie. I'd see it again. I'd even go so far as saying I'd see it again in theaters, which I don't typically do.
I think we've done that we actually did it for Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. We did not do it for Last Jedi.
No.
I only saw that. Well, I saw it twice, but you did
I
not
only
see
saw
it
it
twice.
once. Yeah, well, get busy and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, I liked this movie. I would probably give it like an A-.
An A-? Hell
Yeah, it's getting the minus just because I felt like it was a little emotionally over the top, like trying to manipulate, emotions, and it was just like certain things were just like, okay, calm down, guys. It's getting a little cheesy, but I don't want to get into any spoilers.
Well, guess what?
Is it time?
Well, not for our listeners.
Okay.
Because now our listeners are going to be taken on a trip. They're going to be visited by the one and the only Andrew Puhr. He's going to take over for a few minutes. He's going to give his spoiler-free opinion as well. Then that's going to be followed up by our good friends, Mr. Tyler from Podcastrophe and the podcast Menace, and our own, the Podmaster himself, co-founder of JIC, Brando.
Brando.
Okay. They're going to be talking about it as well. And then
Brando.
we will be coming back, but we're actually going to just keep talking.
With our spoiler
We'll come back.
full rendition.
Hardcore spoilers,
All right.
all firing away here, folks. So, AP, go ahead and take it away.
So after coming out of my second screening of Avengers Infinity War, I finally am able to kind of put my thoughts together on how I felt about the film. And it's actually interesting in so many ways. It's able to take the individual aspects of all of the films that came before it and meld them together in a way that I think only the Russo brothers could pull off. The themes, the evolution of characters that were set in stone, especially the arc that Taika, I'm not able to pronounce it, the director of Thor Ragnarok, what he established for Chris Hemsworth's Thor going into Thor Ragnarok and then coming out of it into Infinity War. I think if you didn't have Thor Ragnarok in there, Infinity War would have suffered immensely from Thor's character development. As with Hulk, everyone that was a part of Thor Ragnarok, I think, really set that standard. It was able to meld very different character arcs. I mean, you saw Civil War, you saw the evolution that you saw with Spider-Man Homecoming and Guardians 2, and you're really able to get all those characters in the same room, essentially, without having conflicting genres or feeling like a bunch of different films stacked together. And you do kind of get that. They couldn't obviously put everyone in every scene together. That just logistically wouldn't work, and it would be just a mess. And trying to get schedules of the actors involved, because there's a ton of big-name actors in this film, so you couldn't do it simply by any means. But by splitting the group up and having different sets of people that also aren't commonly in the same room together actually made it more... It worked better. You almost had 3 separate but together stories with a lot of fluidity between them. And I think that was kind of a fantastic aspect of the film. And I'm trying to resist saying any spoilers in this section of the review, and I'm going to have a spoiler where I can talk about a lot of the big things that happened and the after credits and all that, which I'm sure going to get in other points of this episode. But there's things that I noticed in the first view, or things I noticed in the second viewing that I didn't quite see in the first viewing. And a lot of it's just like kind of like the subtle, like I said, the subtle references to the earlier films. You see with Spider-Man's character and some of the quips he said in Civil War and stuff he did in Spider-Man Homecoming. It just kind of brought some of that stuff forward. It really definitely made it more enjoyable. And actually being in a crowded theater, because I attended the 6 p.m. fan event, so I got a little intro clip before that was a lot of the behind the scenes with the actors together, which was really cool. And I will say, Thanos was the main character of the movie. Without giving anything away, like, his character arc, it's his movie more than it's anyone else, more than it's Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark's movie. Like, he's the central character in this. It's not like he's a regulated villain. Like you saw in the first Avengers movie, it was very much Loki as the villain, but he wasn't the main character of that. Or in Age of Ultron, you saw that Ultron wasn't the main character. But in Thanos in Infinity War gets so much of a character arc, it's almost like an origin film for Thanos. You saw how he got to where he came from. You even saw it with Black Panther. That Killmonger's character did get some backstory. This in Infinity War, you took it up to 11. So that was definitely something that I feel like people weren't expecting in an already pretty tight film with a large cast. And unfortunately, there's some people that, I don't know if it's spoiler to say, but there were some people in the film that you thought were going to be in it that weren't. And, they'll probably come back in the sequel, in Avengers 4, whatever that title ends up being, which I know there's already some names out there, but we'll see what they call it. I'm definitely intrigued by where the story arc takes us into the next one, but yeah, I think it's a movie I want to see at least a couple more times, but unfortunately MoviePass decided to screw a lot of people over at the right time and chose to institute basically the day Avengers Infinity War dropped to make it so you can only see the same movie once with MoviePass, which I know is a good way for them to prevent people like myself from seeing Avengers every day for a week straight. Which I can see their side, but I feel like it's kind of ridiculous to choose it right at the kickoff of blockbuster season to restrict people. Especially because when there are things that you can see a movie a day, that's in their plan to allow people. But I don't know, it's kind of frustrating, and I know a lot of new people are turned off from actually getting MoviePass now because for all new subscribers, they're limited to 4 movies a year as opposed to 1 movie a day. So I've definitely been abusing my MoviePass. I'm also kind of messed myself up because I was planning, after my first viewing of Infinity War, to see Super Troopers 2. And after I left it, I'm like, I cannot sit through another movie. I just got to sit here and digest what I watched. So didn't do that. So I bought my ticket already for Super Troopers 2 using MoviePass. So when that instated, I got the grayed out. So now I have to, if I want to see Super Troopers 2 in theaters, I have to pay, which is unfortunate. But I'm probably going to go on Tuesday and for AMC's $5 tickets and do that. But that's getting off point of what I'm talking about today, which is Avengers Infinity War, which I'd have to think about it. I think it's probably my favorite MCU film to date. It just had so much going on, and it had so many bits and pieces. It's just very much a culmination of, and there's no lull in this movie. It's such a fast-paced movie that there's never a point like, how long has this been going on for? At the end of the movie, you could have said only an hour had passed, and I would have believed you. It did not feel like a 2.5 hour film. Like, I'm pretty sure if they kept the same pace going into Avengers 4, it could be a 5-hour movie, and I don't think I would notice. It was moving so quickly and got through so much, but it didn't feel rushed at the same time. It was just perfectly paced for a story where you knew all of the original information. Like, I saw a review today from the New Yorker talking basically bashing Infinity War for being an MCU movie. Basically saying, like, there was no explanation of characters' motives, there was no introduction of these characters, and it just kind of jumped into the story. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the point. It's an 18-movie-long story that's been going on for a decade. You don't need to introduce me to Tony Stark again. I know who he is. I know who all these characters are. Thanos is the only one we don't really know yet. We still have a vague idea of who he is because he's been in and out of the last decade of films, pretty much since Avengers post-credit scene, when you see him looking off to this and you see that smile and knowing what's coming, and he's been in and out ever since. Like, we know who these characters are. I don't think anyone's going to walk into Avengers Infinity War having seen none of the preceding films because they know it's a sequel to a movie just because, and I don't know, it's just frustrating that people who know nothing about these films will review it and be like, yeah, it didn't make sense. There was no introduction. I was like, well, yeah, you got 18 movies of that. You have 50 hours of introductions that you can go back and watch at your leisure over a week. But that's beside the point. But the movie's amazing. The visuals are stunning. Same thing with the feel. Like, when the Guardians were on screen, it very much had the Guardian style with the colors and the music and the vibe of it. You saw when they were on Earth in New York, you saw very much the feel of Avengers and of Iron Man and of Doctor Strange. You got that vibe from them. And when they went to Wakanda, which isn't a spoiler because it was in the trailer, it felt very much like I did a couple months ago when I saw Black Panther. It has that same vibe, the same sound, the same visuals. It didn't feel like they definitely paid attention to the details that they dropped in earlier films. And it really picks up literally probably an hour after the post-credit scene from Thor Ragnarok. Like, if you're listening to this, I'm presuming you've seen, hopefully, everything up to Infinity War. If you haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, this might be kind of a spoiler, but you know in the post-credit scene of Thor Ragnarok, they're on their ship, and they're staring when they see a giant ship in the distance, and then that's the end of that post-credit scene. And that ship is obviously Thanos' ship. And basically when you pick up Avengers Infinity War, there's the ship again. So you know it's just picking up right where it left off, immediately after. And that's kind of the way I want to see a movie. You don't need to catch on anything. You can drop me right back into what's going on. And if you've paid attention, or I didn't go through and watch all 18 movies in rapid succession going into this, but I did watch quite a few of them, and I've recently rewatched like Thor Ragnarok and saw Black Panther recently. So it's just, I've seen all of them and I remember all of them, and it really just, you don't need to give me intro, drop me right in. It's such a payoff, and there's so many little details that are like there was one scene which I'll talk about in the spoiler section where a hood gets dropped and you're like, holy crap, I cannot believe that's who that is. Like, I was wondering what that was going to be, or there's just so much worth sharing. And the post-credit scene is also phenomenal, so definitely want to get into more of that. But I think that's all I can say without trying to get into spoilers, but I highly recommend this film. I definitely recommend seeing it more than once, because on a second viewing, I really saw a lot more that was going on in this film. The music is great. There are scenes in there where the music makes it so much better, and it flows well, and it uses original themes. It felt very much like a Star Wars film. Like in Force Awakens, when the music to intro characters and what's going on, like, it gives you an emotional connection to what's going on screen more than just knowing where the story is going. It really brings you right into it. And I believe his last name is Silvestri. The composer really did a fantastic job just really adding to the emotion of this film, knowing that you don't know how this is going to turn out. This isn't like previous films where you know the status quo is going to be relatively okay going forward. This movie could have a crazy ending, and you just don't know.
What's going on, guys? Brando here from Journey into Comics, and I am coming to you from space. Of course, we are here to take a look at Avengers Infinity War. We are sort of scattered across the universe, if you will. I am sitting here today with the hosts, the co-host. I don't know if you're host or co-host. Has that been designated?
Blaine is the host. I'm kind of the co-host / star of the show.
Okay,
because
yeah.
regardless of what guest we have, I out-talk everybody still.
There you go.
So I'm that guy, Tyler.
Yeah, from Podcastrophe, Tyler, every Thursday on the Journey into Comics Network. You're also a part of Podcast Menace with me, yours
Correct.
truly. That is a monthly podcast over on the Patreon. We did a first one. It's for free. You can go grab it somewhere in the backlog here on the network. Go check that out. And if you like it, go give us like some, $3. That's a show that you guys will be getting if you guys do that. That's some exclusive content for the Patreon. I got solo coming up, so we're going to be talking about that and the hype leading up into that. But today it's all about Avengers Infinity War. I saw the movie as we record this. I saw it on Friday night, 6:05 Eastern Standard Time. We were almost late getting there. Her mom was running late to getting here. We got there at 6.
How was the theater in Lebanon?
The top was all full, the front was all empty.
Okay.
So, but they had the higher back end seats.
So you weren't cranking your neck?
No, because like you had a spot to rest your head, so like you were leaning back a little bit. It was kind of like sitting in the living room in my house. I've got my TV up, and my wife mismeasured, so the TV is sitting higher than what it originally had planned. Which to some people might go, man, that's high, but for me, it's like when I'm resting, that's like perfect eye level for me. So like it really wasn't bad. You kind of had to move your head a few times for some of the bigger scenes to kind of see what's going on. But they had more showings than when I first ordered my tickets. So there was another showing at like 6:20 and then 6:50. There was like a couple different screens showing it. But we got in there. I stood in line for the slowest concession workers ever. I got my soda and my popcorn, and we got seated right as the trailers were getting ready to start.
It's a miracle that you even got a seat, because Blaine and I went this morning at 11 o'clock, which is the first showing of the day. We went here in Lafayette.
You went purposely just to hopefully not have a crowded theater.
Yep. I told Blaine last week, I said, look, if you and I are going to, because originally we had talked about all going to see it as a group, which we like to do, but we all have lives and whatnot. So much like the movie, we decided to do things a little bit separate. And so Blaine and I went this morning at 11, and I said, look, we need to get there early. This is going to be big. They're still riding the Black Panther train throughout the country. That movie is still in theaters and still making money.
Just a note, on the way home, there's a old drive-in on the way to Lebanon, and it was showing Avengers and Black Panther.
Really?
As a double feature.
That's cool.
And I'm like, number one, I'm like, that's badass. And number two, I'm like, oh my God, they start at dusk, 8:30. Can you imagine how long you're like that? Those are too long.
You won't get home until 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Especially, with the intermission and everything that they have between the films. Yeah. That's a 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning rolling in at home thing. With kids, there's people taking their kids to that.
Yeah, of course.
So that makes a long night for sure.
But it was, I hope they didn't get rained out, because it did rain last night a little bit. I hope they didn't get rained out.
That's something that we don't get to enjoy as much as I think we should. The dry, part of the reason I love going to the movies so much is it's for the experience. You've got your $10 movie ticket and your $80 on concessions, and you get to spend time with your friends and family, and it's just the experience is a lot of the draw for me. And the drive-in was always cool when I was a kid, and there's not that many of them left.
You're right. I went to a couple when I was younger. I really didn't go when I was older. Because, as you're right, there's they're kind of few and far between.
I think there's only 3 around here. There's one outside of Lebanon, one outside of Monticello. Then there's one. I think there's a straggler somewhere in there.
I know this one down here was for sale.
Oh, really?
I saw that over the winter, so it looks like somebody bought it, and I'm glad they did, because when he gets a little older and can have an attention span for a whole movie, I wanted to just for the, as you said, just for the experience to go and just have that be a different movie-going experience. But you went at 11 o'clock.
So I told Blaine that we needed to go early because this film, everyone knew that this film was going to be big.
Of course.
It's still riding the Black Panther train. You've got Deadpool and Solo, all kinds of stuff coming up here very soon. So we're very much into the summertime box office season. And I like to go to the movie the first showing of the day anyway. People like to sleep in on Saturdays, or Sunday. People have church. It's normally not as crowded. And I always regardless of what movie it is, get there about 30 minutes early, because I like to have my popcorn and sit down and go to the bathroom before the previews start.
Yeah.
And as I pull up and park, we agreed to meet there at 10:30. There's already a line out the door. It's like, shit. They've only got one showtime at 11 o'clock, The next one wasn't for like an hour and 45 minutes. But Blaine and I both already had our tickets. He let me use Miranda's Movie Pass. Well, unfortunately, I get inside. Blaine walks in right behind me, and the self-serve kiosks are shut down. So we get in line, and just, through a good stroke of luck, the manager walks over and he's like, "Here," and he boots the kiosks up.
Oh, yeah.
So I ran right over there, got our tickets, or I got my ticket, and then I ran to the bathroom. Well, Blaine didn't see me go to the bathroom, so he runs to the theater. And then we both met in the concession line, like, "Where the hell did you go? Where the hell did you go?" So it worked out. The theater was not near as packed as I thought it was going to be. There were seats scattered throughout, but pretty much everybody that came was in a big group. So it kind of inflated the numbers from afar. So we didn't have to fight it too much, but it was very ominous looking at the start.
I had to make sure that I had enough space. My wife is a notorious small bladder for movies.
Mm-hmm.
So she tends to go to the bathroom once, maybe twice. And I wanted to make sure that she was able to go and get out without having to cross people's paths. And yeah, no, it was like me and her. We were in the last row, like in the front. We had nobody in front of us. We could put our legs up on the armrests and try and relax the best you can. And yeah, it was a pretty comfortable experience. We didn't have to wait through all the showing crap. We had a solo trailer, but it was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little disappointed by that because I liked the second one better.
We got, it looked like a mashup of the first one and the second one. So I was kind of surprised to see that because the trailer that we watched started the way that the original trailer started and then ended the way the Super Bowl trailer, or the updated trailer ended. So it was a mashup, I guess.
Interesting. Of course, there's Jurassic World,
which was a new trailer.
Yes,
for me.
I believe that one has been out. I think I've seen it once, but I might have been on YouTube. Sometimes they'll air them before a video that you're going to watch.
Like the Red Band trailer.
Yeah, or it sometimes it'll come up as an ad, like a trailer instead of just a regular ad. Like if I'm watching YouTube on the TV, and if sometimes if it's a trailer, I'll just let it go, just to watch it. But I think I've seen it once. But I remember those two. There was Incredibles. Was there another one? I'm having trouble remembering. Those are the ones that just stuck out.
Those are the big two for me. I didn't really pay attention to anything else.
There was one with this guy and this girl in a boat.
Oh, the Secret Life of a Pregnant Teenager Girl.
Mm-hmm. Where they're stranded out in the ocean after the perfect storm or whatever.
She was the star of the Divergent films.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name.
The movie looks pretty decent.
I actually think it looks really good. I like both of them as actors. So,
and then of course the movie gets right into it was funny because we're sitting there waiting for the movie to start, and then they start with the Marvel thing, and you hear this kid go, "Yeah." And we just start laughing.
Blaine and I did that, and we both leaned over and we're like, "Hey, it's not playing the Marvel music.
It's quiet.
It's quiet, and it's very ominous, and it's like, what is happening?"
All right, so we're gonna not go into spoilers yet. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna take a minute.
So we're gonna cut that off, and we're gonna come back to it in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, because we're gonna give our quick reaction thoughts of the movie first. I'll let you go first. What did you think of this movie?
I thought it was a fantastic movie. Since I've been here for 45 minutes now, I keep telling you that I'm still decompressing. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to analyze what happened, because that's one thing that you have to praise this film. I mean, there are things that I can complain about with this film, but they're few and far between, and they're very nitpicky. There's just so much, all of these big blockbuster films now are approaching the 3-hour mark consistently. And, I talked to Nate for probably a good hour after the film this morning, and I said, dude, I could have sat for another 3 hours, no problem, because there was so much, they told so much, but they could have kept it going. I would have sat through a 6-hour-long Infinity War movie, no problem.
I have I'm almost the same line of thought as you. I do have some nitpicks. There are some minor problems with the movie, but they're pretty minor from my point of view. And pacing is one of those. However, this it's not inherently bad to the movie because it keeps you engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a point where it's like it stays with like one party or like one or two parties so long that when it gets back to another one, like, man, it's been a while since we've been here.
Mm-hmm.
How? And I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, so these things are all happening at about the same time. And so much time has passed over here. How much time is going on over here?
Right.
And that to me is like, all right, so that happened, like all this stuff has happened over here and he is just getting there. So it was a bit kind of back and forth for me. Literally, probably no one else noticed that. That's just something that me in my head, I'm like analyzing. Like
Blaine and I both noticed it too because we talked about it a little bit.
But that's like, that doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that a bit.
I do like, and this is typical, and this is nitpicky as shit. The children of Thanos, you could give a shit about. They don't really go into who they are, what's going on. They're just there. They're
canon fodder.
Yep, exactly. They're a general to be like standing big and bad in place of Thanos in a place where he can't be. That's fine. But it like once they like got into it and I realized that's what they were, I quickly got over that. Like at first I was like, oh, these new characters, who are they? And then I was kind of let down at first that they're not really gonna like go into them. They're just gonna kind of be baddies. And I'm like, oh well, okay. Then I instantly stopped giving a shit like about that part of it.
The children of Thanos are actually one of the things that I loved about the film so much. And once we get to spoiler territory, I'll touch on that a little bit more. They, through lack of character backstory, lack of information, lack of however you want to say it, I think they actually added a lot to the film without trying to add a lot to the film. With, I don't want to say foreshadowing, just with what they did.
I explained to Nate, because I haven't talked to him much about it. I sent him a 1-sentence review. He said quick reaction like this morning. So I gave him a quick reaction. I said it's a great movie, or no, I said it's a great Marvel movie. It's a very poor casual movie.
Yes, because
this movie requires you so much prior past viewing of other movies. Like this movie, I would almost say that this is like better defined as an event than a movie. Because,
I like the way that you put that.
Because when you're looking at comic book events, when you have the Secret Wars, let's just throw that out there, and we could use the Infinity, but let's use the Secret Wars because that's a lot of characters involved. You're bringing in Spider-Man, Rhodey Iron Man. You're bringing in some of the X-Men. And it doesn't necessarily require you to understand and know all the characters, but Iron Man is in it, and you don't know it's Rhodey until like issue 4 or 5.
Right.
We've discussed this on this show when we did the Comic Club review of Secret Wars, where you're reading it, and there's a line from Iron Man that says, "It's not like playing a round ball, kid." Is like that's not a Tony Stark line. It's a Rhodey line. You are not necessarily informed that is Rhodey. And what this movie does, it gives you a lot of characters. It brings up, and it does it well, but it does it at a point where if they had to take time to explain who and what every single one of these characters was, it would have been a detriment to the movie.
Right.
It would have helped the casual goer. If there was somebody out there who isn't big into these movies and goes, wow, that looks like it's going to be epic, I want to go see that. If they come into this, they're going to be lost on who and what and where these characters have been and what they've been doing. And let's just take Rhodey, for example. I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, you're right.
But you see him. He has the leg braces on, like the whole harness thing because of what happened in Civil War. His history. Like if you have been watching the movies, his history with Tony, with the Sokovia Accord, with where he stood, and who he is as a heart of a character, right? Where he stands morally, and what kind of decision he's going to be making and how he's going to act. In this movie, he's just a dude. who has a suit similar to Iron Man.
Yep.
And
that makes decisions based on military doctrine.
Yeah. See, he makes statements. You understand this guy is probably former military, which he is, and he's associated with Stark, and that's pretty much it. That's like, if you're a casual moviegoer, that's what you get. You don't understand the levity of what it means later, and that's for spoiler territory. That is a detriment for a casual moviegoer. I'm not docking this movie too much for that, because I'm rating this. If I were to rate it as a casual moviegoer, it would still be a pretty decent movie because it's really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But as a Marvel fan, I'm rating it higher than I would for that. But I am not, that sort of fault is not lost on me, because, as I said, it's very difficult to bring together a plot, all these characters, without having people are going to say, well, you have the MCU, you have all these movies that are just almost designed for you to have to go watch them. Well, it's like, well, what if you're not the biggest fan of Thor? There are people out there who just don't like the character. He's very dry, very stoic, not as entertaining to watch as some characters. I get it.
I have a lot to say about Thor when we get to spoiler territory. One of the things that I wanted to say, and I didn't mean to jump into your line of dialogue, but I totally agree with everything that you're saying based on the casual moviegoer. But you said something to me Thursday or Friday. We were kind of dissecting some of our theories going into it, and you said everything that you're hearing from reviewing institutions, early stuff, was that this was a Thanos and Gamora centered story, not everybody else.
Right.
So not that I disagree with any of the points that you made, because they're all valid points, but I think they did such a good job of telling Thanos' story,
sure,
and not the hero's story, that even for the casual moviegoer that maybe has only seen, Iron Man, Thor, and the first Avenger, like, hey, now I know 90% of this guy's story, and it's so focused on Thanos that I can kind of just accept everything else that's going on,
My point is that when you get to something like the ending and sort of the levity that brings,
right,
the loss of attachment to certain losses that we may have towards the ending,
or not have, may or may not have.
We're not spoilers yet. To me that feels less, because then, as a viewer, this movie was obviously designed to be watched without watching Spider-Man or Black Panther.
Correct.
And you are given, basically you could have come from Civil War. You kind of had to watch Ragnarok to get this movie to understand the beginning of it, at least. Sure. And where that character is. But they kind of say enough to cover that if you haven't seen it.
There's still, even if you have seen it, there's still a lot of questions. We'll say in the first 7 minutes of the film, it still leaves a lot of stuff unanswered. And if you don't pay very close attention, there's a line of dialogue that I missed, that I'm 90% sure Blaine missed, and Nate pointed it out to me. And once he told me, I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, basically what I'm saying is that, if you're an MCU fan, if you're a Marvel fan, if you're a comic fan, this movie's for you. This movie's tailor-made for you. This movie is a seismic event like they do in the comics. And it is how they the first Avengers was the bringing everybody together for the first time. The whole movie was the whole plot was designed to get them to the spot where they could do the camera shot. And then you had the second Avengers, which did that again, but on a much bigger scale.
Yep.
And then this one again, they increased the size, they increased the stakes, they increased everything. So again, job well done in that regard.
Do you think this is the best MCU movie so far?
That's difficult. It's difficult to say due to taste, due to
In your personal opinion.
aspects about it are. As a single story, that's hard to say. Probably not.
For me,
it's hard to say before I let you go. If this movie beats the first Guardians, if this movie beats Ant-Man or Doctor Strange for me, as being a single
self-contained
story, because this movie has several different plots in it that are going. That more of them, some of them I'm more invested in than others. Some of them I'm like, yes, and other ones I'm like, that's cool too. So when it's all wrapped up in a bow, I don't know if I could say they're better than those three. It's unfair to put it up against that because it's not the same kind of movie.
It's on such a grand scale. For me, you're not comparing apples to apples anymore. You know, I totally agree with the three that you chose: Guardians, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man. Those to me are the best, kind of the holy trinity in the MCU. You know, obviously there's other great ones.
Sure.
Continuing my theme of unpopular opinions, Civil War is one of my favorites. You know, that film was put together for the airport scene.
Yes, of course.
Much like the first Avengers was for the panoramic, 360-degree camera shot. That movie was all built for that airport scene. So I think if you are going to review this movie and really critique it, and you're using the other 10 years of cinema from this universe, you can't combine the two because you're not comparing apples to apples. Just because of the grand scale.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so many different plot lines. You're tying up all the Infinity Stone plot lines
that have been sprinkled out for the last 3 phases of movies.
And then you have all of the Thanos stuff. And then you have 10 years of character development for, you know, the first phase heroes. And then all of that character development now being thrust into second and third phase character development, and how those characters all interact together. You know, there's a lot of comedy, and I think with Ragnarok and Black Panther and just the family experience that Disney and Marvel are pushing for the last 10 years, that we're not going to see that go away anytime soon. This was a very somber movie a lot of times, but the comedy was still there.
For it being family entertainment, they were definitely pushing some boundaries here with some of their jokes and some of their humor, some of their language was a bit higher. And
I was surprised to see edgier. A lot of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I were to rate this movie against the other come together movies, which I would be Avengers, Age of Ultron, Civil War, because Civil War is both a come together movie and a singular story within a few characters. I think it's the best one out of them.
Okay.
When we reviewed Age of Ultron, 2 years ago now? Man, it's been a long time. Maybe longer. I don't remember.
We're getting old, Brandon.
Yeah, I know. That might have been, what year did that come out? 2015?
Did it come out 2 years or 3 years after the first one?
I don't remember, man.
Because didn't the first one come out in 2012?
You know what? It was 2015 because 2015 was Age of Ultron. 2016 was Civil War. And then last year was Guardians 2.
Yes.
In May. So, yes, 2015. I rated that movie really high when I first saw it. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of things about that movie.
And you and I have talked about it. You enjoyed that film a lot more than I did. I was very critical of Age of Ultron.
I really enjoyed the characterization they gave to other characters that don't get their own films, or have not yet, or may not get another one. I liked that a lot. I liked some of the like they did a lot more with the interactions of the characters than the first movie did, where it was more like the first movie was like the breaking the ice phase, and this one was like more of the kind of the buddy cop, Lethal Weapon, 48 Hours.
Retirement.
Yeah, I'm too old for this shit. Go spit, Stark. Go spit.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Anyway, I liked that movie a lot when I saw it in theaters. I was very entertained. This one goes above, I think, those other ones. So yeah, out of the 4, I would definitely rate it higher.
What would you give it as far as a number?
Shoot. 'Cause I'm not sure I would rate Age of Ultron. I think I gave it a 9 back then or something like that. I'm not so sure if I'd do that now. I've seen it again since then. I still really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, yeah. Because I don't think this movie's a 10.
I think you would be... I think anybody that gives this movie a 10 is doing the movie a disservice. Personally. Because there are things about this film... you touched on the things, the point of view of the casual moviegoer, and the dad explaining. I've had the thought, what if you're the dad explaining to your son or daughter after the film is over, like what has been happening the last 10 years to lead up to this point? Mm-hmm. I feel like you would have your work cut out for you.
When we left the theater, number one, we saw a DeLorean.
Really?
Dude drove a DeLorean to the theater.
Did he hit 88?
He might have, because, I know we did. We were late.
If you had a flux capacitor, you would have been able to go back in time and get there early.
Exactly. But, dude, like, first off, that was like nerdgasm, you know? But then there was this family, and this kid was so excited. He was probably 8 or 9. He was on cloud 9. He just saw the best movie of his life. And his mom said she hated it.
Really?
She goes, I loved it. And she goes, really? I hated it. And then my wife looks at me, she goes, did we just watch the same movie? It's a different, and I'm thinking that's the instant. Because as like you, I was still decompressing. My wife woke me up at 5:00 this morning to help with the kid when she didn't need to. Grumble, but I had trouble falling to sleep because my brain started picking this. I'm laying there going, I don't care right now, but my brain did because I was still thinking about stuff. But that's the moment I started thinking she doesn't care about the superhero movie genre. These movies are so big in driving the theater experience right now. The whole movie industry revolves around these big superhero movie blockbuster films to help keep the industry going, where several other genres have kind of waned in popularity. And when you have somebody like that who came to this movie, obviously as a family thing, family entertainment, like you said, and she is going to sit there with her husband and kid and watch this movie where she has probably seen the other stuff in passing when he's watching it,
right?
And then she's not understanding a lot of this movie and a lot of reasoning, a lot of characters. Why does this character do this at this moment? And
why is this character attached to this other character?
Exactly.
There's that's one of the big themes. Obviously loss on the road to Infinity War is the theme. That's what we're all preparing ourselves for. That's what the studio has warned us about.
Sure.
And then, when loss starts to happen and you're not attached to anything, it's not really loss. It's just screen time.
This movie tries. This movie definitely spends time, for those of you who haven't seen the other movies, to tell you character A and character B have a past, have stuff going on, and that there's feelings. Okay, that's fine. But it's your knowledge and your knowing of how they got there that makes a possible loss mean so much more.
Well, and the film is 100% relying on our attachment to these characters that are then attached to each other, and our attachment to those characters' attachment to each other.
Yeah.
So attachment and loss is the theme of this movie, and if you're not involved, it's just not there.
I'm going to gut it right now. If I gave it a number, I honestly, I want to see it again, but I'm also torn about seeing it again in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that we'll get to in the spoiler section, because there's it when you know something is definitely coming, like, and we, as you said in the message to me, like, we called like 90% of this movie what happened, and that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
But like once you've kind of seen it, if I had somebody going, I still haven't seen the movie, do you want to go with me? I would probably take them up on it. But seeing as how I've saw it with my wife, it's probably not going to happen. The amount of level that I would have to go to the theater to go see it,
Right.
I don't know if I would want to do that. I think I want to wait until it comes out on video.
That's where I'm at with it.
And watch it again. I'm not, and that's not. I don't know, because I'm not sure if this movie necessarily isn't worth that. But it's such a long movie to sit there that long. And while you said you could sit there for that much longer, my hip actually started hurting towards the end. And so, like, it was actually starting to get painful to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, while I was still enjoying what I was seeing, I was like, we're getting close to the end, because I'm starting to hurt.
I was so into the movie. I was so fidgety,
Mm-hmm.
A scene would happen, and I would sit up in my seat. And then I would lean back in my seat, and I would readjust. And then something else would happen, and I would be on the edge of my seat again. So I was so focused on what was going on, but the moment I went to stand up, it was like, when did I become 80 years old? God damn. So I totally don't disagree with what you're saying.
I'm having trouble, I think, and it may change. Maybe the more we digest and talk about it, we'll see maybe at the end if it stays. And it may change by the time it comes out in July, August, whatever this movie comes out. And I'll see it again. It may change. 9.25, I think.
See, you're actually rating it higher than I would.
I think I'm gonna give it 9.25. And I'm like, part of me just wants to say it's a 9. Part of me wants to say that it's a solid. It's 9. It's a really great movie.
I would give it low 8s, just because of everything that we've already touched on.
Mm-hmm.
Just an unbiased, just regular moviegoer review. I would give it a low 8. Because it's grand on scale, the effects are all good. And one of the things that I loved about this film is they did a good job with the cinematography.
Yes.
I picked Black Panther apart because of the shoddy cinematography. I am not paying $70 to go to the movies between my concessions and my $10 movie ticket. I always make that joke, but it's the sad thing, even with MoviePass now, you're still spending... If you go with your significant other or friends, you're still spending $40 or $50 on concessions, and obviously that's where the movie theaters make their money. I mean,
you know what's funny is that we only bought one drink and one thing of popcorn, because I hound the popcorn. She eats a few pieces, and I just sat there, and then we shared the drink. We actually didn't go for a refill, and we didn't leave. Like, we actually still had a little bit of our syrup water left towards the end of the movie.
But overall, as an experience and everything that's going on, I think, like I said a minute ago, I think giving this movie a 10 out of 10 would be doing it a disservice, just because of how grand of a scale it is and how young it still is. Let's give this let's give this a couple weeks, maybe a month, to truly digest it, because we're both still really doing that. We're all doing that as fans, and then let's let the number.
I don't
come in
disagree
after
with you.
that.
I don't disagree with you one bit. Maybe my idea will change. I caught myself being really critical of certain things, like of the things I've already kind of said, and I realized, and that's because I was like, I'm looking at, all right, so what are the cons of this movie?
Mm-hmm.
I had to think about it, because I really enjoyed my experience. And there's only a few times in the movie where I was like, I noticed something, and the whole pacing thing was one thing. But, like, no, the effects were on point.
Mm-hmm.
They looked great. As much as all the memes were about how Thanos looked, I thought he looked fantastic.
Like I said, I feel like this is Thanos' story, and not the Avengers and Guardians and And I feel like it's not their story. It's Thanos' story. And after how much I picked apart Black Panther with the blur, and I personally don't think Black Panther deserves the amount of money that it's made. I don't feel like the film is that good. Compared to films like Guardians and Doctor Strange, and, we've touched on that enough. But I found no issue with Josh Brolin as Thanos whatsoever. I don't know that there's anyone in modern cinema that could have done Thanos better than Josh Brolin.
I really liked his portrayal of the character.
Complain about the purple skin and the octopus chin all you want, but every scene that Thanos was in, you were so focused on that character, you had every opportunity to pick that character apart, and not once through that almost 3-hour-long movie did I feel like that's what I needed to do.
They made him menacing.
Mm-hmm.
They made him powerful.
But you still felt you were almost siding. I felt like I was almost siding with him.
Well, and that's the thing, is that I also heard that, like, you're going to understand why he's doing what he's doing. Agree or disagree, you're going to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at this movie from his point of view, he's the hero. And all these people are in his way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. So
before we get to, I want to say one thing about Thanos, because I said this to Blaine at the end of the film, and I'm pretty sure I said it to Nate too. Part of the reason I loved this portrayal of Thanos so much, Thanos is a mortal being. He can be killed. He's not a god.
Mm-hmm. And
they did such a good job of having mortal and godlike characters. In the MCU, any character that's slightly more gifted than a regular human being is basically godhood status. Peter Quill now at this point is just a regular dude,
mm-hmm.
and he's still god status. They are competing with the Mad Titan Thanos, who in his own way is just a regular dude, but he is fighting. Anytime there's a story where man challenges the gods, defies the gods, and succeeds, I dig that. And this story is all these different threads of that woven into one, because you have Thanos defying fate, the fate of what existence should be, and then you have the other side of the coin to that, the Avengers and the Hero Squad doing that towards Thanos. Thanos is the god to them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw it out there because
hell yeah.
God, Thanos, they did such a good job.
So that final scene with I was half expecting the credits song to be Dust in the Wind, because that's how it seemed. Like, all of these major characters sitting there just turned to ash. Like, and at first you're like, okay, maybe these are permanent, but once it starts getting into characters that have a sequel, like, as soon as Black Panther turned to ash, I was like, okay, so this isn't going to be permanent. There's no way they're going to they're making a Black Panther sequel. This movie, Black Panther, was the highest box office grossing film, or one of the highest ever, only to probably be broken by this movie. So there's definitely going to make a sequel to it, and they're not going to kill off that main character. Basically, at the end of that scene, and the Spider-Man scene, which was gut-wrenching, because literally you just see it like he's just a kid. He, as very much as he's an Avenger, and he even got knighted by Tony Stark going into that final battle, when he's sitting there being held by Tony Stark and dying, and you saw how much it broke. There was people in the audience of my movie that were crying. There was a teenager sitting next to me that was crying through most of the credits leading into the post-credits scene. And I was sitting there, my mouth dropped. Like, I didn't think they were going to go that far. I expected. There was the scene earlier when Tony Stark tried to kill Thanos, and Thanos just broke off this tip and just stabbed him right in the gut, I think it was. I thought that was it. I thought, this is it. This is where Tony Stark's going to die. trying to defeat the biggest villain that the MCU has ever seen, and that wasn't the case. But man, all of those other character deaths were unexpected. The Vision one was especially hard just because he had a double death. You saw him explode, and then you saw through Thanos using the time stone because he had all the stones, just which you didn't see in the trailers for good reason. You see him wind back time, unexplode Vision, rip the Mind Stone out of his chest, or out of his head, killing him, turning him gray, which I think was a great visual to show all of the life force and the color and the vibrancy out of Vision to nothing. Just a grayed out, dead-eyed being that was essentially just a robot at that point, just dropped on the ground. You saw, like, you know what you're getting into when the first 5 minutes of the film, basically you know the cast of Thor, beyond Thor himself, is gone. I even messaged Nate because I knew at the end of Thor Ragnarok that, like, Korg and Meek and all of them were on the ship, and at the end of the ship part of Avengers Infinity War, looked like everyone was dead. Like, everyone except Thor. You saw Heimdall try and save and get it after he jettisoned Hulk off to Earth, saw him get stabbed through the heart and die. You saw Loki try his best to kill Thanos, only to get choked out and his neck snapped by Thanos in front of Thor, who's just trapped. And yeah, when that's how the movie opens, you know what you're in for. And so many other characters. The other one that was hard to see was Gamora getting thrown to her death over the cliff, which is actually where you get to see freaking Red Skull come back, which surprisingly enough wasn't actually Hugo Weaving. It was an actor from The Walking Dead, which I had no idea. The first viewing, I thought it was him. It sounded like him. It looked like him. But it wasn't. And the person who I thought was a body double, which was Benicio del Toro's The Collector from Guardians 1, I could have sworn that was another, like a random guy just dressed like the Collector. But over the second watching, I actually paid attention, and yeah, he's credited as the Collector in the movie. So I don't know, I just wasn't seeing it. But yeah, the amount of people they brought back for these little few minute bits, like, I'm trying to think right off the top of my head. You have Idris Elba as Heimdall in 4 minutes probably of screen time. Loki has a few minutes, just like a minute more than he had than Idris Elba as Heimdall. You have Red Skull in it for a few minutes. You have the Collector in it for a few minutes. You have Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts in it for a few minutes. Like, there's so many people they were able to bring back for just a little bit, just for a taste for us to actually see. You see Wong from Doctor Strange. He's in the beginning. He has a little bit more going on because he actually helps in the fight in New York with Doctor Strange and Tony Stark and Spider-Man and Hulk and all of them. So he got a little bit. Hulk himself actually only got a couple minutes of screen time. He fights Thanos in the beginning on the ship with Thor, gets his ass handed to him, gets knocked out, and that's when Heimdall throws him to Earth. And then Hulk's not in full Hulk form. Again, the whole film. They really lied to us in the trailers, because you see there's Wakanda scenes with Hulk fighting alongside them, at least in that big cinematic scene with a bunch of characters running. And Nate called it. Nate said that Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner was going to be in the Hulkbuster armor, and yeah, Nate had it right on the head with that, and I'm sure he talks about it in his part of this. But yeah, it was definitely a lot going on, and it, like I said before, it was a lot of continuous pieces, and the fact that they even brought back the Children of Thanos, they didn't really give them much of an intro, just knowing that they're basically his lieutenants, the people that are just under him who are helping get him what he needs. But man, there was some. It was still funny, but it was definitely the darkest MCU film, I think. At least my personal opinion, just for the mere amount of death, the injury, like seeing Gamora thrown to her death, seeing Nebula peeled apart and tortured, seeing Vision get his head ripped out, just the sheer amount of what was going on and the injury. It was a little graphic in some aspects. I mean, it's a Disney movie, so it's not like there wasn't like blood and gore and stuff, but there was some rough scenes to watch in that movie. But man, I want to watch it like I could watch every day. I think that's going to be, I think of all the recent MCU films, I think Infinity War is the one I want to just own right now so I could watch it and dissect it. And I want it to be a year from now so I can actually see how this story plays out, because despite it not being like it originally was with Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, they did say they made it, it said it was going to be a complete story, and then the sequel is going to be a new adventure. But man, it was a cliffhanger ending. They definitely did, like, yes, it definitely completed that part of the story, but it was like it faded to black, but they definitely left you wanting so much more. Like, it is the Luke Skywalker standing on a cliff on an island moment. Like, you're like, just give me 5 more minutes. I just want to know where we're going from here. Like, it basically, and I heard someone else talk about this, and I think it's actually a kind of an interesting story. I'm kind of jumping around here. It's just when you're talking by yourself and the stream of consciousness from watching this movie. And it actually, my point of getting to this is actually kind of makes sense. I think that everyone who was turned to ash aren't the ones that are going to be dead by the end of Avengers 4. I think it's going to be an exact opposite. Because after all this, you're left with basically the original Avengers plus a couple ancillary characters. On Titan, you're left at the end of it with Tony Stark and Nebula. Doctor Strange is gone. Spider-Man is gone. Star-Lord, Mantis, and Drax are gone. That's on Titan. You have on Earth, on Wakanda, you have remaining, I believe you have War Machine, you have Black Widow, you have Steve Rogers, I think who else is remaining? You have Thor, you have Rocket, but like Black Panther is gone, Falcon is gone, Bucky is gone, Groot's gone. It's just, it leaves you, like, basically anyone who would pick up the mantle from Steve Rogers of the next Captain America, at least how they did it in the comics, both of those people, Bucky and Falcon, are both turned to ash. But if you think about it, if it was the exact opposite, that would be all the characters that were basically in it from the beginning, whose actors whose contracts are up, and who would be believable that at least one of those, if not more, would be dead by a permanent death. So it would be weird if that was the people left behind are in another plane of existence instead of the people that turned to ash. But I know they have big plans. I know there's been behind the scenes pictures taken from the Avengers 4 set, which shows a lot of the actors in Avengers, the 2012 Avengers movie costumes, which leads to believe that somehow they're going to be able to go back in time to mess with that. So it makes sense that the cast that's remaining is the cast that's able to fit in the 2012 story again. To maybe they're going to alter the Battle of New York that we saw in Avengers to change the future in a way to allow them to win. Because when Doctor Strange in the movie decided to, he looked at all the possible futures in which they could see if they could succeed in defeating Thanos. And there was only one case, and that's what we're in with. Because before Doctor Strange turned to ash, he said, we're in the end game now. So if the Avengers sequel could be called Avengers Endgame, and I'd be like, damn straight it's the end game. It's this or nothing, because half the world is gone. You saw in the post-credits scene with Maria Hill and Nick Fury, who both turned to ash, that the world's stuff has just fallen to part because people are disappearing in their cars, people are disappearing on planes and helicopters and all of that. world's going to be a disaster area come the beginning, because half the battles, it's like the Rapture. Like, half the world is gone. Like, it's going to be chaos out there for... I don't know if it's going to be immediate, if it's going to pick up right where it left off like it did when it jumped into Infinity War. So we'll have to see what the remaining Avengers and the remaining characters in the story deal with the fallout. Like, because Stark and Nebula have to get back from Titan. I don't know if they have a ship. I think the ship, because the ship they got there and exploded, I don't know if Nebula's ship is still there. I don't know how she got there. Maybe her ship's fine. There's no one, I don't think, who can make a portal. I don't think there's anyone remaining. I don't know if Shuri got turned to ash, so I don't know if Shuri could help put something together. I feel like I'm about to get, if Shuri survived, I'm about to get Shuri and Tony in the same room to maybe build something to help them go back in time. I feel like between them, they could maybe come up with a time machine so they don't have the time stone. There has to be some way to get back there. I don't know if there's any ships. Well, Thor has his ability to create I forget the actual term. His ability to create bridges between two places. So that may be how they can get to Titan, to get to Tony, to get him back there, or summon him somehow. So it'll be interesting to see where they pick it up, but it's going to be a long year while we wait. We have Ant-Man and the Wasp, because you have Ant-Man and the Wasp coming next, and Ant-Man and the Wasp were not in this movie. Neither was Hawkeye. They were both explained away as being in witness protection. So I know they're going to have to be involved somehow. I'm sure Ant-Man and the Wasp would take place immediately after Civil War. So probably the end of the movie or the post-credits is going to catch you up to Infinity War with a fallout that maybe involves one of those characters turning to ash. Maybe it's Hank Pym, maybe it's the Wasp, maybe it's Janet Van Dyne. We don't know. We'll have to kind of see how that happens. And we also got Captain Marvel in the fall or early spring. I think it's either November or March. So we'll see. That'll at some point in that movie is going to have to take her from the 90s to now, because that's their only hope. And you saw in the post-credits, before Nick Fury turns to ash, he pages Captain Marvel, because you see the Captain Marvel logo, which is a nice tease for being a very simple post-credit scene. And you get to see the whole classic thing where it's like the Avengers will return, and this one with Thanos will return. So you know we're in a different game now. So, but yeah, it was definitely an amazing film. Having all the space stuff didn't detract from the story. It still felt very much grounded in earlier Avengers style films. So I was blown away. I'm definitely going to see this movie at least one more time in theaters, even though I have to pay because of Movie Pass. And I'm definitely going to watch it quite a few more times when I have it on home release, which will probably be late summer, early fall at this rate. The theater I saw it at, Black Panther's still playing, so I know we have quite a while before a home release is going to come out, but I'm excited. I want to watch. I'm sure there'll be some documentaries on that Blu-ray. Yeah, I'm going to be all for it, and I didn't think I was going to do it, but by the time that movie ended, Thor was my favorite character. I liked him in Avengers, loved him in Ragnarok, but his character arc's been amazing, and his side stories, like with creating Stormbreaker and getting his eye back, and his work with Rocket and Groot, I want just a movie with them. I want a movie with them, and I also want a movie with Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, and I forget her name now. Girl from The Walking Dead, Michonne from The Walking Dead's character. She was one of the Dora Milaje. So get a movie with those three.
Yeah. So we are currently about 40 minutes. So
It's spoiler time.
yeah, we got 20 seconds from the start from where I hit record, and I'm going to count it down because we are currently approaching 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. spoiler time. 40 minutes into our segment. This is spoiler time for us. When this movie starts and you hear the distress calls, and that most of that action's already happened, and you're at the end, and you see mortally injured Heimdall, and you see Loki on his knees, and you see him threatening to kill his brother Thor for the Tesseract, which of course we knew he took.
Right. Which Thor did not know he took.
No, he didn't know. But we called that Loki would give it up to save his people. He gave it up to save his brother.
Yeah, he did. We called it.
We
fucking called it.
He gave it up to save his brother. First, he tried to play it cool, and then he just couldn't take it anymore. Again, that's such a complex character that Loki is. You're always trying to question his moral compass. Where is he at? And he's not so evil. He's not so good. He's somewhere right in the middle.
Well, is he legitimately evil, or is he just opportunistic?
Selfish.
Is he all about self-preservation? Does that truly make somebody evil? I don't think so. I've never personally looked in the MCU. I have never personally looked at Loki as a villain. I've just looked at him as someone who is in the right place at the wrong time with the right stuff with the wrong people.
So Loki decides to give it up, and he gets the stone because he crushes the Tesseract. And then Loki gets to pretty much say a line that was used against him in the first Avengers movie. We have a Hulk. Where the hell was he at? Like this whole time. It's like, so where's Hulk been hanging out? Like, of course they did they were doing that for the big scene. That way they could have the kind of the showdown, between him and Thanos. So you get like the Hulk running in, duking it out with him, and then getting the shit stomped out of him. And Heimdall using the Bifrost there at the end to shoot him away before.
Again, dude, we called it.
And that's how he ends up back on Earth. And then, of course, they kill Heimdall. Farewell.
Yep. I saw that one coming just because I feel like if you're going to decimate the Asgardians, you cannot leave one of the most powerful Asgardians alive doing non-Asgardian stuff.
Yeah. So then, towards the end, Loki trying to be sneaky.
Trying to be sly, trying to do some hood rat stuff.
Trying to save the day for him and his brother. They're in a tight spot. Thor's already kind of been beaten, held down. It just goes to swear his allegiance towards Thanos. I'm going to help you. If you go on Earth, you're going to need a guide.
Yep.
I've kind of been there, And then he goes in for the kill, and then gets stopped and killed.
Very brutally killed.
Yes, he gets his throat crushed.
Yeah, he does.
And Thor, Thor watches it, and then he uses because at this point now, he now has two stones, right? He has the
Power Stone and the Space Stone.
Space Stone. So that he uses the Space Stone to open up the wormhole to get back on the ship. And then they use something to help almost pretty much disintegrate the ship.
He uses the Power Stone
to do that,
to decimate the ship.
And then first that sends Thor hurling, through the debris and wreckage, and there's Hulk zooming towards Earth, Thor hanging out like in the middle of space. He's a god, so he doesn't have to breathe oxygen, I guess. Not really too sure how the whole scientific.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I nitpicked initially. I was like, okay,
Because it's
Is
obvious
he-
that he uses air to talk.
right.
Because later on he's breathing so heavy when he's getting into his talking. But yeah, that's not really ever. I assume that's just like, yeah, he's a god. He doesn't need to breathe technically.
Right.
He can survive in space.
One of the and I mentioned it while we were non-spoilery that during when the scene first pans in and you're seeing all the dead Asgardians on the floor, there's a female character that is dressed and looks very similar to Valkyrie,
Yes.
who is not Valkyrie. She's been confirmed for her actress has been confirmed for Avengers 4, and there's a line of dialogue that I missed that said somewhere throughout the film that half of the Guardians escaped. So what I assume is that Valkyrie and Korg got half of the Asgardians, not Guardians, and got the fuck out of there. And then anyone that got left behind stood by Thor and failed. So wherever I missed that line of dialogue, that was the one big thing I had to complain about, because that's kind of important.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least to Thor's character arc. That's kind of important.
Well, of course. Because then there was the whole thought of all of them are going to die, and he was going to be the last Asgardian. If that's the case and that isn't true, then they're still out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So go to Earth. We got Tony Stark shenanigans. Him kind of doing his thing. Hulk lands. I'm not sure how Heimdall managed this, but he lands right in
Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, right in the Sanctum Sanctorum. It goes right to the right to the steps, and there he's coming out of the Hulk thing, and I like how last time he was like, what happened, and now he's like, we're in trouble. Like instantly, he's just like, dude.
So through just in the first, I'll say 10 to 12 minutes of the film, in my opinion, you get so much foreshadowing, which I feel like the entire 10 plus years of the MCU has been nothing but foreshadowing, obviously, up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get to talking about Tony and end of the film Tony, I feel like his interaction with Pepper in the first third of the film is all foreshadowing for Infinity War Part 2 or Avengers 4, whatever you want to call it. And obviously, Banner coming out of the Hulk in the Sanctum Sanctorum, remembering everything, being terrified.
He just witnessed from inside Hulk getting his ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
Thor getting his ass kicked. Like the Asgardians who was left getting decimated. I mean, and maybe that's where Hulk was. Maybe he was like going with the others and then stopped. Maybe that's something we didn't see.
Right.
Maybe when I said where was he? Was he hiding under some rubble waiting for his time to?
He was the escort, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
to get them off the ship.
And then he made his way back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Like I dug that a lot. How he was instantly like, we need now. Let's go, because he's coming here. They've said we need to assemble, so to speak. No, get the team together. Let's go. And then of course it's like he says that to Strange. Strange is like, huh? Stark, come with me. What?
What?
Yeah, we have an issue. And I like how the joke when Stark said no more surprises, and it's like, surprise.
Immediately. I loved the dialogue between Pepper and Stark about the arc reactor that he's got basically glued to his chest. That's entirely unnecessary, because now he's using it just as a symbol, and it's kind of a symbol. It's not just a symbol for the little kids to see him on the street and say, "Oh, you're Iron Man, you're Tony Stark." It's a little bit of, to me, Tony's theme now at this point is his ability to cope or not cope with his mental health of everything that he's dealt with throughout the series.
You want to talk about foreshadowing? Age of Ultron had that big foreshadowing for him with his PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And that can somewhat be reflected here.
And that's what I feel like the arc reactor that he's got basically pasted to his chest is he doesn't need this. He obviously doesn't need it to survive anymore because of the events of Iron Man 3. And at the end of Iron Man 3, that was him basically pledging himself to Pepper and saying, I'm leaving all of this behind. And that's where we start with Stark and Pepper in this scene. And he's like, well, I'm going to make a promise to you. We're going to go to dinner tonight and yada yada, and everything's going to be grand. And they're engaged now.
I thought they were married. Or wait. Well,
no, they're married. They're married. Or they're getting married.
Well, because I thought Strange said congratulations on the wedding. Or on the marriage. Or
something
either
like
way,
that.
they're either going to be married or they have been married.
Right. And then immediately, I need your help.
Yeah.
We need you, but I feel like the arc reactor is his way of mentally detaching himself from the events of the first Avengers film and the nightmares, the dreams that he's been going from, because the arc reactor is something that's rooted in the past, So we both paused at the same time. But so we go straight from a park in New York back to Sanctum Sanctorum, and Tony's got the lowdown from Wong and Strange and Bruce about what the hell's been going on. I'm sure Stark now knows where Bruce has been.
Yeah.
All that jazz.
And I really liked the interaction between Stark and Strange throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like how their characters instantly like it's like two sides of two different poles of a magnet. They don't.
Through Strange's character arc, he was originally what Tony currently still is.
Yeah.
He was the man at the top of his game with everything to lose, but in his mind, untouchable. And then through his spiritual awakening and enlightenment, he's become a better person, dedicating himself to protecting the Time Stone and the Earth as a whole, their reality. And then you have Stark, who is still you have to imagine that when Strange looks at Tony Stark and interacts with Tony Stark, he's seeing himself before what he is now. Even
though Stark has gone down his character arc where he is actually at this point, no pun intended, infinitely better than where he started. But he's still Tony to an extent. Whereas Strange, in a way, you can almost say Strange is the same, but to a different degree, where Strange prided himself on being the best surgeon. Now Strange is now the guy with the magic arts. So it's like he prides himself in that. But then again, his focus has been redirected and sort of like, I am the best to I have a job to do. That is way more important than how good I am.
Right.
I need to be that good so I could do this. And that's where, you see that immediately when he does the cameo in Thor Ragnarok. They're there, a whole 5 minutes before he's like, not even like he's showing up going, yeah, nope, you tried to invade the planet with some aliens, you're going, bye-bye, you and me going to talk. What's going on? And then so the moment he knows anything's going on with Banner, he gets Stark right there, right then and now. Banner's like, we need to go, man. We need to assemble. Call Cap. And, of course, because of Civil War, they're not really on the best of terms. He still has the old flip phone and is just about to call when you get another typical New Yorkers running down the street screaming. And then they did a little thing with Doctor Strange's hair. He's like, are you moving your hair like that?
Yeah, that was the perfect time to throw in a little bit of comedy, because up until that point it was nothing but, other than his interaction with Pepper, it was
and then also
serious,
a little bit of Strange
serious.
where he's leaning on like some sort of like a big pot.
Are you leaving on the the Cauldron of Existence, I think is what it's called.
He's like trying to stretch. And there were a few pokes, but then of course they run outside and there's people running and falling, and they're helping them, and then they're trying to figure out what's going on, and then of course there's this big giant space donut coming down from the sky, and it's causing some chaos, and then of course we go to Peter from all the trailers. He's on the bus.
Spidey sense,
what the heck? He sees it. He gets his buddy from Homecoming. Hey, calls a distraction. He goes, "We're all gonna die." And then
they all run to the other side of the bus
for him to be able to get out of the emergency exit and throw on the emergency Spider-Man mask.
And I loved the Stan Lee cameo. He's the bus driver. Haven't you guys ever seen a spaceship before? Like, and he saw Peter fucking dive out of the bus.
Yeah.
They got that big ass mirror in the front of the bus. He's just cooking along. There goes Spider-Man again.
Yeah. And my wife cracked. She goes, as if he could actually drive. At this point, it's like, yeah, come on, but still, it was like you have to have, as long as he's able, you gotta have your Stan Lee cameo. Mm-hmm. I love it.
It'll be a sad day when we no longer have Stan Lee cameos.
I agree, and of course he's like, going on to save the day. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in New York. Hey, big. What's going on over here? This needs my attention.
I love that he dove out of the bus and it was Spider-Man with only his mask on. We don't get enough of those shots. Right,
yeah. It's before he can get the whole suit on. Of course, what we do see him, he does actually have the suit on.
Right.
And then, of course, our heroes are quickly met. Our heroes being Stark, Strange,
Banner,
and then Strange's buddy, which is Wong. They're met with the children of Thanos coming down.
The Maw, and I don't remember the big one's name.
Mm-hmm.
But the wizard one's the Maw.
Yeah. And I like how Stark just refers to Doctor as like wizard at first.
Mm-hmm. And he calls the Maw Squidward.
Squidward, yeah. They make a joke about, swearing off stuff, and like at some point, like he says like, yeah, I swear off dairy until Ben and Jerry's made his flavor after me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do a quick joke about like Stark cravings and
Hulka
burning love.
Yeah. It was like Hulka smashing chocolate or something is actually our favorite.
Yeah. And then Banner's like, they have that? I love how they're doing like pop culture within this verse where like these characters are starting to become legend in their own world.
Right.
It's neat because you don't really get to see that or hear that enough. Whereas, like when you go to DC, it's like Superman and Batman, and they're like revered in their cities and their world,
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you got Iron Man doing his stuff, and people are like, oh yeah, that's Stark doing Stark stuff again.
Well, we really haven't got like fanfare type stuff since the original Iron Man movie when Tony's like, I'm Iron Man.
Iron Man 2 when he had the expo and he had the pyro and he's showing up and doing all
and
that
then
stuff.
Iron Patriot in Iron Man 3 when it became a spectacle there.
And you know what? Okay, I actually saw on the credits Rhodey's listed as Iron Patriot, not War Machine.
That was one of the things that I was expecting in this film. I expected to see Iron Patriot just, maybe the suit as a cameo in Avengers headquarters or something somewhere. And, I wouldn't say, unfortunately, we only got War Machine, but no Iron Patriot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was listed as Patriot, so it's, I guess that's his character name. Because I don't recall if they just called him Rhodey, didn't they?
I feel like in Iron Man 2, at one point, Rhodey calls himself War Machine.
Well, I mean, like in this movie. Proper.
Oh yeah, no.
Again, like I was.
It's just Rhodey.
That's something that I was nitpicking at. I was like, did they even say everybody's name?
No, I don't feel like they did.
Because like I was like trying to go through characters and like Mantis from the Guardians. I'm like, did they ever say her name? She goes, yeah. I'm like, I don't remember it. I know they said other characters, the bigger characters' names in there, but Yeah, no, man. So they're doing their thing. They have a fight scene. Shit happens.
Banner does not turn into the
No,
Hulk,
dude,
and they
can't.
need the Hulk, and he doesn't. He can't.
Yeah, we got gypped. We got screwed. We got bamboozled. In the promotional stuff for this movie, we saw Hulk running with the people in Wakanda, and he was not there. That's for later on in the movie. He's not there. Hulk is only in the beginning of the movie and little phases when he's trying to Hulk up, and Hulk refuses.
You actually see him start to morph into the Hulk, I'd say like 3 times, 4 times throughout the film, and every time he gets close to hulking out, you see the big guy yell, "No!" What the hell's going on? Did Thanos literally beat Banner and the Hulk so bad that the Hulk is terrified of becoming himself?
Either that, or it's almost like his pride's hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's never been beaten, other than, I guess, by...
Thor
Hulk.
is the only person that's ever challenged the Hulk.
Well, and then there was also, like, I guess the Hulkbuster had incapacitated him.
Right.
And so I guess if you want to call that a defeat, I guess technically, yes, they were able to, and that was that was co-designed by Banner as a deterrent, right? So like, yeah, as far as like when you're looking at like how like the strongest hero character they have, it's no doubt Thor. Thor's almost like the Superman of this group, but with more weaknesses. He can still be killed himself,
right?
Unlike Soups, who needs a rock.
You had to bring it up.
Hey, no, but this movie shows just when Thor's on point and when Thor's kicking ass, he's there and he's badass. And I would say that, like, man, those 3 Thor movies are not the best movies of this bunch, but his character, I really like from start to where he is now. He's one of the more interesting characters to me.
Well, I feel like you have 3 fantastic character arcs. You have Caps, Starks, and Thor.
That's your triad.
That's your triad. And I mentioned this to you last week when we were talking theory before we saw the film, that if, say, in this first film we lose Tony and Cap for whatever reason, there's only one other person that is truly qualified to lead the mightiest heroes of Earth, and that's Thor. And that fits very well with his character arc, and you added a lot to this. He's the prideful son that is worthy in strength and mettle and what he's achieved, but mentally he's not ready. So Odin shuns him. Well, he redeems himself, and then he turns it down because he doesn't feel himself that he's worthy. And then at the end of the third film, he has no choice other than to be what Odin originally ordained him to be, the king of Asgard. And that it just, we are going to lose Tony or Cap. We have to in the next film. We have to lose one of them. It doesn't make sense not to. And if for whatever reason we were to lose both of them, Thor is the only guy that can step in and kind of rally the troops, I feel like. There's
a few other guys that might be able to play leader.
But I don't think they could do it as well as Thor.
No, because, I mean, arguably, as far as, like, the whole crew, as far as, like we mentioned Quill, he's kind of a fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants leader. He tries to come up with a plan, but his plans are always so, like nobody kind of listens. Nobody holds him into that same line of respect as they would Thor. And then maybe T'Challa, Black Panther, probably he would step up to do it. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it. I'm just saying that, like, if someone's like, what do we do? He's going to be the guy go, well, here's what we could do.
And he shows a little bit of that in this film.
Yeah, sure.
While they're in Wakanda.
And his position among his people has put him as that. He is their Thor. He is their hero. He is their guy.
Right.
And so him telling other heroes what to do, he wouldn't think. He wouldn't even think. He would just, like, shoes here. Put me in them. But so I'm trying to find out, because I'm trying to just kind of wrap my head around it. We get introduced. Spider-Man comes in. Of course, we have pairings in this film. This film doesn't bring everybody together like you think it does. It brings most everybody together, but just like I thought, there are different segments of this story told in different places, and I half called something. I said, I predict the Guardians won't even be on Earth.
And I told you I disagreed, and you were 100% right. They never went to Earth.
Two of them did.
Oh yeah, Rocket and Groot.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, later on in the movie they do show up because they get split up with Thor later. But no, they end up going off on their own thing, and you know, a lot of people, you and maybe some other people thought there's going to be something in New York, something in Wakanda, and then something in space. Whereas in reality, you were part right because something does happen in New York first. But that's also like the space stuff is happening around the same time. Like the space stuff ends up splitting off into two deviant parts, and then meets back up with the Earth thing. Well, that space part meets back up with three characters who leave Earth with that spaceship, and that is Stark, Spider-Man, and Strange.
Stephen Strange.
So Strange gets knocked unconscious at some point, and is flying through the city.
What's his cloak's name? I always forget.
Yeah, the cloak is like he's flinging around the city.
The Maw has captured Strange, and the Maw decloaked Strange, and the cloak flies in to save the day, grabs Dr. Stephen Strange himself, and then starts dragging him through the air through the city to get him away from the Maw, because the cloak is a sentient thing. The cloak is there to assist Strange and whatever Strange's directives are. Well, very early in the film, Strange makes it very clear that the only thing he gives a shit about is protecting the Time Stone.
He will not, when it comes to saving other people's lives, he will save the Time Stone first.
Correct.
And that is where his oath lies.
So the cloak grabs him and flies through the city. Peter jumps in, Parker jumps in. I almost said Quill. Spidey jumps in and assists with that. And the children of Thanos are giving our heroes all that they want.
Mm-hmm.
And Strange teleports the big one, I assume, to Mount Everest or something.
Yeah, somewhere cold.
That would make sense. And then the Maw captures Strange and departs the planet.
Yeah, so he's leaving. Spidey's on the ship, trying to hang on.
Starting to lose some oxygen.
Yeah,
because they're getting really high up there.
Stark calls in for something. I can't remember. It's like letters A125, and it's the freaking Iron Spider
Spidey
suit that was shown at the end of Homecoming, and it catches Peter and does the nano thing all around him, and that's how he gets that suit. And then he's like, okay, bye, get out of here. And of course he doesn't. He hangs around, and I love the look of that suit. I thought it was great.
All of the costumes for everyone were fantastic.
And see, they're doing the whole nano thing because it's like Iron Man now has like what the Black Panther has too, with the suit that just kind of overcomes the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of nitpick that a little bit with Black Panther. I'm not liking that as much as his original outfit from Civil War, where he had the helmet that he took off, and could wear that. It's almost like the old Power Ranger outfit where he took the helmet off. And of course that makes you in a way like when Tony would take he would open up the mask and he would still have the helmet on, but the part of the mask would be off. It makes you kind of miss that a little bit because it just goes gone, full human head on top of CGI suit.
Right.
It does look a little weird, not bad, just weird. And of course, Spidey's mask does the same thing. Of course, I think it ate his other mask because when it came off, he was wearing his regular suit when it came on him, like when it just took over his whole body. So,
well, remember, he took it off. He took his mask off.
Did he?
Yeah, he takes his mask off and he's starting to gasp for air. And
you're right.
You
are right.
Right
yes.
as he passes out, that's when the suit grabs him. And
I was hoping it ate it.
I think it would be funnier if it did eat it.
I think you ate his mask right now.
Yeah.
But
I really dug the Iron Spider suit. The spider appendages that come out of the back of the suit were so well done. And for some promotional art, it looked like to me that was basically just going to be like a gimmicky type thing. I felt like before this film that he wasn't going to utilize the extra appendages. And throughout the film, he does time and time again.
Yeah.
And if you have the Iron Spider suit, you need to be doing Iron Spider suit shit.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah,
so
it was awesome. Yeah, dude. So that, it's great. And then they're going into space, and then we have something that happens over in Scotland. Vision sneaking off with Scarlet Witch to go meet up and have a booty call.
A little bit midnight rendezvous.
And they've been hanging out a bit longer than what they should. They get, of course, Vision's got the damn stone. They're looking for that damn thing. And so while some of them were in New York, a couple of them went over there and they found him, they attacked them, and of course, hanging out nearby, we're Cap and his buddies. We have a little fight scene here, and they help save the day and help ward off. Of course, with them were Cap, Falcon, and
Black Widow.
Black Widow. And so they've been kind of called into action because somebody has called. Bruce found the phone in the streets of New York, and so he called Cap to kind of fill him in what's going on. So now they fly back home. He says home, and of course they end up flying back to Avengers HQ.
Yep,
where Rhodey is. Secretary Ross returns for another cameo in this movie, and orders Rhodey to arrest them. When they pretty much say, like, we're here, we're going to fight. If you stand in our way, we're going to fight you too. And he says arrest them. It's like...
It's Rhodey.
Well,
against
number one...
all of them.
Yeah. So, like, even if Rhodey was like, you're under arrest.
All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah. So, of course he doesn't do it. And he's like, yeah, sure, we got shit that we got to do, come on now.
I like that Rhodey bought into it immediately because... When he's going through his exchange with Ross, he makes it very clear, or Ross makes it very clear to Rhodey that I remember your signature being on the Sokovian Accords, and Rhodey's like, yeah, but that was a mistake. Rhodey, not just because of his accident with Vision and the physical harm that the physical harm that befell him because of his misguided decision, I would say, or kind of, when Rhodey signed that paper, I look at it as a very headstrong decision. It was him trying to do what's right for the greater good, and he was backing his buddy. Mm-hmm. He was backing Stark, and he regrets doing that because it honestly was wrong. It was the wrong decision, and so he basically tells Ross to fuck off.
Well, I also love how that happened, and he doesn't hold it against Vision or anybody else in the group.
I expected that to be very tense when Rhodey and Vision met up again, and there was nothing there.
He has moved on, and he is quick to put that suit right back on, whereas like somebody else would be like, this almost killed me last time. He's like, let's go. Let's suit up and let's beat the bad guys.
Right.
He is, and that's the end of story with Rhodey. That's who he is. He's not going to let that stop him from doing what needs to be done. So now they're like trying to figure out, well, they're after the Infinity Stones and need to get a Vision and it needs to be destroyed. And it's like, well, if that, well, I can't do that because that's going to kill me. And Vision's like, do it, kill me, I don't care. And so they have this whole kind of back and forth thing. And, they're trying to figure out, like, well, maybe there's a way we can get it out of there, and then they end up on the voyage to go to Wakanda.
I love that throughout that whole exchange, and that exchange takes place multiple times throughout the film, where Vision is willing to sacrifice himself to stop Thanos. And he points it out to Cap multiple times that Cap sacrificed himself to stop the Red Skull and save everyone. How is it any different? And Cap said, we don't trade lives. That goes back and forth throughout the film. I like that they stuck with that theme up until the very end.
Yeah.
until there was absolutely no other choice.
So we're then met with another scene change. It tells you where we are. We're in space. We get the music. So
that was hilarious. The whole fucking theater went nuts during that scene change, and then it said space. The whole fucking theater erupted into laughter.
Same. Yeah, and then of course it's the music, it's the feel. The Guardians are in the movie now. They're
They've
rolling
got a new
in.
Milano.
Mm-hmm. They're all. I love how like Drax is falling asleep.
Yeah.
Star-Lord sitting there singing along, telling Drax, "You take it," and then Drax.
Gamora's singing.
Singing.
She looks happy.
Yeah, and we got teenage Groot, angsty teenage Groot. I love it. I love like instantly his first one, like the very I am Groot.
I am Groot.
Yeah, he's sitting there playing the our like arcade Defender or like Defender or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Playing that, and pretty much the whole movie he's playing that damn game. Instantly, you're ported right back to the fun. The Guardians add that to this movie where it's sorely needed. Mm-hmm. The Stark stuff, that's funny, that's light and witty. With Strange and calling him a wizard, that stuff.
Squidward and everything else.
But that's Stark. There's going to be that. Even he throws that in there during tense moments. But with the Guardians, those like the whole like dance off.
I love that they brought that up back when they're on Titan.
Yeah.
And what was it when they were on Titan?
It was either
brings
that.
It up.
Yes, because because Stark is there.
Yeah, he's explaining to Stark about the dance off that saved the galaxy.
Because Drax brought it up.
Yep.
I love Drax in this movie. Drax was great. Flash forwarding just a second. I love him like standing still. Like, how long have you been standing there?
An hour.
An hour. I've been perfecting my technique on subtle movement. If I stand still enough, you won't be able to see me.
I'm basically invisible.
And he's like eating like snacks or something. And he's
they're like basically like some space nut.
Yeah, he's like, we can see you. You're like,
he says my movements are so slow you can't detect them.
And the Menace walks in. Hi, Drax.
And he just leaves. God damn it!
He gets so deflated.
But Batista and it goes back to what I said about Josh Brolin as Thanos. And I've talked on every podcast that we've talked about Star Wars, that we've talked about the MCU, and even the DC films. These production companies are nailing the cast so well. I don't know of anyone that I would replace Batista as Drax with. He has done such a good job as that character, and he really shines in this film.
It's funny. It's like when you get to the first movie of the Guardians and you see him as that character, and then by the second movie, he's really like it's like he really got it.
Mm-hmm.
He really gets what makes this character funny.
Yep.
And it's like the antithesis. It's like how he's so serious on the weirdest, stupidest shit.
Mm-hmm.
Where everyone else is looking at him and like, what? He's like, yes, this. And then it's just how cold, rigid he is. And I think, and of course, this is his third appearance as the character. He has it.
Yep.
He's nailed it. He's got it. I can't wait to see him, play the character again. But so the Guardians meet up with Thor. They got the distress signal from the Asgardian ship. They're hoping, Quill and Rocket are hoping to get paid.
Right.
And then Drax brings up, well, if they don't pay you, just take their ship. So here's Drax talking about being a pirate,
Right.
Them kind of like saying, no, we don't do that. We need money.
Wink, wink.
Wink. Of course, they go and like, Thor's like the fly on the windshield, but he blinks looking in there. But then they get him in there and he's not awake. And then Menace is kind of like feeling him.
Not sexually.
No.
Unfortunately.
No, but I'm trying to remember how they wake him up exactly.
She wakes him.
Oh, she wakes him up from that.
Just like she puts people to sleep.
Yeah.
Peter tells him tells Mantis to wake him up.
And then he jumps up just like he's still like,
right in the battle, yeah.
And then, that's where we get the sort of lowdown. Gamora just happens to be the adopted daughter of Thanos. Wow, all right, cool. He has Thor has a plan, and it's the exact plan that a lot of people thought he was going to do. Go get a Stormbreaker. Is it Stormbreaker or Stormbreaker?
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker. My bad. Could be Stormrider.
If you say it fast enough, breaker and bringer become the same word.
Yeah.
A little heritage coming at you.
Stormbreaker.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely Stormbreaker. So yeah, like that's, and then he takes Rocket is obsessed with weaponry, so he's like, yeah, we're gonna go. Of course, he's doing that to kind of get away because they're splitting up because they're gonna go try and find Thanos and stop him, and they're the Guardians, damn it. And of course, Drax wants him dead. Gamora
wants him dead.
So, so we have motive here to go forward and split up. So the crew splits up in 2 different directions. To cover this next part of the plot.
Before we move on to the next part, were you disappointed or surprised that we didn't see what's his name from Guardians 2 that at the end of the film was wearing Yondu's fin?
Oh.
I don't remember his character's name, but at the end of Guardians 2, he was trying to perfect the technique of using the fin with Yondu's arrow.
Yeah.
And God, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember his name, but I was kind of surprised not to see him with the rest of the crew when they at the end of 2 when they showed him wearing the fin and trying to figure it out. I fully expected him to not necessarily be in the Guardians fold all the time. As far as frontline shit that they were doing, but I expected him to at least be somewhere reasonably close at all times.
Yeah,
because he's kind of Peter's last attachment to Yondu, if you could think about it that way, So I don't know. I was disappointed not to see him. Obviously Nebula wasn't there. We get her later in the film. I loved the way they did that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll go to the next sequence.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how I want to talk about it. I mean, obviously, we've already been going hour and 22 on this. I'm not sure how long we're going to be. As I said, I gave us no cap because I know this is going to be discussed in like another segment here as well, like pretty much the whole movie. So we're just kind of going over it. Probably we're going over. I don't know who's going first. I'm not sure what segment's first. But we're definitely going to talk the rest of it. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to go next because. Let's go back to Thanos. So he went to the Collector to get. Is that when the
Reality Stone?
The Reality Stone, yes, because they basically it was a trap.
Mm-hmm.
He's already got it.
Yep, he had it before he got the stone from Xandar,
and so
he went to nowhere first, got the Reality Stone, killed everyone, then went to Xandar. Or no, he went to Xandar, obliterated Xandar first, got the Power Stone, then went to nowhere to get the Reality Stone. Killed. I'm gonna assume the Collector's dead.
Yeah.
I don't think we see. What the fuck's his name? Is it Benicio del Toro?
Yeah.
I don't think we see Del Toro back anymore.
But yeah, it was a trap.
It's a trap.
Because we get this whole thing where Gamora seemingly kills him.
Mm-hmm.
Puts a blade right through him.
Right through the octopus.
Yeah. Of course, we get the flashback around that time of her as a child. And,
God, that was so well done.
And them obliterating her people. And then
did you notice during that scene that only half of them were killed?
Yeah.
I didn't notice until the scene was almost over because when Thanos is giving Gamora the knife, the little double-sided dagger to play with, and he's kind of explaining to her his doctrine without explaining it to her. He's explaining it to a child, so it's very simplified.
Notice he knows who he's talking to. He breaks it down, and he makes her focus on that so she doesn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that says a lot about his character.
Well, one of the things that I said to Nate, this is such a kind of a culture shock to all of the heroes, because up until this point they have never really fought anybody that is the total package. Thanos is the total package. Loki was the mastermind, who in reality was just the henchman for Thanos. Lusting for power, mommy and daddy issues, brother issues. Bam, done. And then with Ultron was not the total package. He was the super hyper intelligent mastermind, still letting his henchmen do shit to kind of end his goal. And then you get to Thanos, and Thanos has been planning this for generations and has been putting all these plans into motion, but he's still doing all the frontline shit.
Yeah. Well, it's better to just go out and do it yourself.
That's right.
He's been working towards this goal, that way he can accomplish his goal of basically genocide, of ridding half the universe of its population.
Mm-hmm.
And with all the stones in the Infinity Gauntlet, he can do it and not have to do the invasion, the waste of resources on sending his people in, the fighting, killing, taking over. That he could just do it. And be done.
Especially because that just goes against his goal. One of the goals, or one of the kind of tenets of his doctrine, is resources are finite. To finance a war and keep the war machine fed takes a lot of resources.
Exactly.
If you can do it with the snap of your fingers, that takes nothing.
And he said, he goes, this is my goal, and doing that to that extent, that's mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it's like, it's over. There's no fight, there's no pain, there's no suffering. It's just over. And going back to that flashback of him sort of shielding her, taking her in from that moment with that double-sided dagger, she tried to look, and he goes, no, focus, focus in on this. He's such a neat and well-done character, because you see it a couple different times. The double-sidedness of, here's my goal, here's what I need to do, I don't care who's in my way, what's in my way to get this job done. And then his relationship with her, like, it does go pretty deep emotionally for him.
He is emotionally attached to her
Yes.
as a person.
Yes. Even though he knows what she has done, and what she would do. And of course, he got to see right straight up forward that she would go for the kill, and that's disappointing to him. But, and maybe,
but I feel like at the same time, he was proud of her in that moment.
Sure.
Because she did what he's trained her to do.
Of course, they pretty much get outplayed by Thanos here. He uses the Reality Stone. We get his implementation of these stones and the power that they each have. We get to see him use them all.
Mm-hmm.
This is like you saw Drax run forward and just fall into blocks. And then Mantis slinkies out or whatever, And then when Gamora, there's a big moment. I talked about this earlier when we were in on spoiler. Character A, we got to see character A, which was Peter Quill. Character B, Gamora. They are attached. They are in love, and she made him promise that he would kill her if Thanos had her. I know something. He cannot have this. Kill me. Shoot me. And it takes a lot to get him to even get to the point where he's willing to do it. And there's 2 points, maybe more than that, where you get to that point where there's such human emotional acceptance of loss and what I'm about to do or what is about to happen. And they go through with it. And in this particular instance, there's Thanos and he shoots bubbles. So where it doesn't happen, he purposely knew what he was doing, playing with him, making him go through the mindset and the thought process of, I'm going to shoot and kill the person that I love, and then not do it. So then you were going to do it.
I love that Thanos' whole MO of doing this is so no one feels pain or suffering or loss.
Mm-hmm.
And he, in that scene, through his dialogue that he's emotionally attached to Gamora. He doesn't, Gamora paints this picture throughout the series that Thanos is just, basically, she is just his ward and his assassin, and she's only a tool for Thanos. In that scene, through his dialogue, you start to figure out that he is emotionally attached to her. She's more than just a tool. And when Peter shows up, the first thing that he says, and I loved it, was, the boyfriend. It's like, he's been fucking he knows what she's been doing this whole time. He knows she fucking helped stop Ronan. He knew that when he sent her instead of Nebula to obtain the Power Stone, that she was gonna turn. She wasn't gonna bring him the stone. He had to have known it. So I just that scene was one of my favorites from the film.
So Thanos walks away with Gamora, takes her back to the ship, and here's another scene that I like where it kind of shows him, like, he brings her like a bowl of food. He's like, I thought you'd be hungry. And then they have like a little sentiment talk, about bringing her. And she's like completely like, against him and what he's doing. But
everything, she throws a tantrum about the throne.
Yeah.
Thanos'
hate this
throne.
room, hate that chair. He goes, I was hoping you were going to sit on that throne one day. And then of course he takes her to another room, and there's Nebula being, pretty much forcibly pulled apart piece by piece with her cybernetic enhancements, and then he starts torturing her to get the information that he wants, the location of the Soul Stone, because he knows through going through Nebula's memory that she has admitted to knowing where it is, or the map of where it was. So then, she says where it is, and they're going to go do that. So then we're going to go over to the other story in space. And that's Thor getting, his new axe, and we get to meet the guy that's going to forge that. And
It's
I can't remember his name, but it was Peter.
like Idol.
Yeah, but it was Peter Dinklage.
When I found out that he was going to be in this film, I was like, for the love of God, do we need more people to add to the budget for no fucking reason? But I loved his character. He did such a fucking good job.
Ironically, he was the tallest guy in the room.
Yes.
He's this tall, big dwarf. Of course, they have this big Star Forge. Get it?
See what he did there.
Big Star Forge there, where they make that's where the hammer, Meow Meow, was made.
Meow meow.
And so now that they reveal that he's the guy that forged the gauntlet to hold the stones, and then then they just killed everybody, and then it dipped his hands in the
molten metal.
That way he can't forge anymore. And of course, with the help, they're able to get the star fired up again. They get the axe made, but Thor has to pretty much take the full brunt of the star, get himself burned up. He's hurt, and the dude's like, hey, well, we need the hilt. And of course we see Groot do the first thing he's done since he's been in this movie.
He's like, oh.
And then he makes the hilt out of his. That was awesome.
Yeah, when he made the grip for Stormbreaker out of his own arm, I was like, fuck, way to step up, fucking teenage Groot.
Yeah. And then of course, back on Earth in Wakanda, they go there. They reveal they might be able to get the stone out of there without harming Vision, essentially, and try to retain his neurons. And Shuri says that she can do it, but needs time. Well, they're getting ready to get invaded. So the warriors assemble. Wakanda soldiers are there, ready to go. The dude, was it M'Baku? I thought it was Baku something because of FF9. My brain just associates.
I get it, dude. I get it.
You can almost call him M'Barku.
There you go.
Because he barks so much. But of course, there's there's the shield, and they can't get past the shield. They end up throwing just thousands of just mutant little warrior things.
During the battle scenes, did you notice that not all, but some of those creatures had human hands?
Did they really?
Mm-hmm. So what I would imagine is they were throughout Thanos' conquests. These are people that he has captured and mutated into his minions.
Foot soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to note. Banner's in the Hulkbuster armor because he still can't Hulk. So it's cool to see the Hulkbuster armor back, and he's the one in it. I kind of thought that might be what was up.
There was a lot of comedy associated with that, and my initial theory about the Hulkbuster was that we were going to lose Natasha, aka Black Widow, during this exchange in Wakanda, and that was what was going to push Banner over the edge to become Hulk yet again and challenge Thanos. Folks, we don't get Banner, or we don't get the Hulk again throughout the film. We see flashes of it, and Banner says, "You know what? I'll do it myself." And I actually really liked that. The Hulk is, and I'm a Hulk fanboy, don't get me wrong, the Hulk is my favorite character in Marvel. And I was a little bit disappointed at first that we didn't get the Hulk, but I thought this was very good character development. It sets the tone for Banner and the Hulk to truly become one.
Right.
One of the things...
And for his glorious return.
Yep.
For the next one.
It's almost the green guy finally having a little respect for the puny guy.
Because he went ahead and he still fought,
Mm-hmm.
and he helped.
Well, and especially because Ragnarok, through all of Hulk's dialogue that we finally get some Hulk dialogue in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And the green guy talks a lot about how Banner's basically just a piece of shit and the Hulk is who he really is, you know? And Banner kind of steals the show in this film. He almost single-handedly defeats one of the children of Thanos.
Yeah.
With a damaged Hulkbuster, and at least half-assed at that time saves the day,
Right. I really liked the size and scope of this battle, which the trailers led you to believe is going to be big and epic, and it was. All the heroes, that were there. Of course, we get to see Bucky strap up. He got his new arm. He's strapped up, ready to go. There's somebody that we missed earlier that I thought I looked at my phone for a second and thought that I had saw a name.
Well, two people while you're looking at that, two people we have not talked about are Ant-Man and Hawkeye.
That's yes, and they explained them when they got back earlier. Where are they? And they both stood against the Sokovia Accord, and they both struck a deal with the government
to go on house arrest.
Yes. So that's going to set us up for the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because they already showed in the trailers where they talked about how he's paying dearly for that, and then that's going to, I assume, near the end of that movie, is going to co-align with the end of this movie.
It would make sense.
It has to. That leads us, this battle, they're trying to protect the Vision thing going on because he's getting the stone distracted, and some of the foot soldiers start to circle around. So Black Panther decides to open up the floodgates, and they all start storming in. The heroes start storming in. They have this big battle, and they're starting to get overwhelmed a little bit. And all of a sudden, Thor's axe could also summon the Bifrost. Boom, coming down right in the nick of time to save the day.
Meanwhile, at the same time, we're also having a battle on Titan.
Yeah, we are, aren't we?
So I'll rewind for that.
Yeah.
Right before the big battle in Wakanda starts, Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, Peter, and then Strange, young Peter, and Stark show up on Titan, have a small exchange, figure out that they're all trying to fight Thanos. Strange uses the Time Stone to figure out 14.6 million different outcomes of the battle against Thanos, because they know Thanos is coming to Titan. And out of 14.6 million outcomes, only one do they defeat Thanos. And at that time, when he says that line of dialogue, I'm like, okay. So apparently in this film, they're not going to accomplish that one outcome. Something's going to go wrong, and shit's going to go down, and then we're all going to be screwed. And then as the film goes on, it makes you think, wait a minute, everything is playing out to make this one outcome come to fruition where they defeat Thanos.
Well, because they start fighting Thanos. They lay this trap, which was awesome.
It was very well done.
I love the fight with him and Thanos. That was awesome. With Iron Man dropping a whole part of a building on him, and all of them ganging up, trying to. Their whole plan was to get the gauntlet off of him. Get that off of him, and then,
because they could take him without the gauntlet.
Yeah,
they know they can. But with the gauntlet, they can't.
Right. And they almost succeed in getting the gauntlet off.
And then Peter comes in.
Because there's a part of here that we missed.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't touch on that. We're going to go back. Because when he's back, he's got another stone. Because he went off with Gamora to get that soul stone.
Mm-hmm.
And were you surprised by this cameo appearance?
Yeah, very much so. Especially because it wasn't the original actor.
No.
I didn't notice it. I didn't realize until after the film that it wasn't Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
But folks, we got the Red Skull, not Death, on Moravir is the planet's name.
But we are looking at Death, and it's actually Red Skull, played by Ross Marquand from The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Did a damn good job, because I didn't really notice it either.
I didn't either.
It's been so long, and maybe if I had seen Hugo Weaving's portrayal yesterday, I side by side had been, oh, of course not. But I'm like, whoa, all right.
Well, it makes sense, when the Red Skull grabs the Tesseract on his fucking stealth bomber. He doesn't get disintegrated. He doesn't explode. He gets teleported to Moravir.
Because the Tesseract
is a space stone.
Yeah.
So he gets teleported through space and time to Moravir, and he's been there ever since. And what I'm reading online is the speculation is that you experience time differently on Moravir. That's why the Red Skull isn't fucking insane from being on Moravir for hundreds of years. Because him and Cap are both super soldiers. They both have basically the same serum.
Yeah.
So they both don't age. But Red Skull's been on that fucking planet for a long-ass time. So he tells Thanos that to obtain the Soul Stone, he has to give everything that he loves. And as the scene kind of plays out, Gamora is elated because Thanos loves nothing. He's been defeated, and you see tears start to fall. Oh, fuck. What's happening? And more tears, and you can tell that Thanos is legitimately distraught and upset about what he's about to do. And Red Skull knows what he's about to do.
Yeah.
He knew immediately. And no matter how much she struggled, Thanos grabs Gamora and throws her off a cliff and sacrifices her to obtain the Soul Stone. Do you think Gamora is inside the Soul Stone, or do you think she's gone?
We'll talk about that at the end.
All right.
Because the heroes almost get the gauntlet off. Peter Quill's there, about ready to do it, and then where is Gamora? And then
Nebula realizes what's happened.
And then, they're like, don't. Because how they have him, they have Mantis
on top of him,
pretty much holding him at bay. And then he says it, and then Quill loses his shit, starts smacking him with his gun.
Hits Mantis in the head, or in the hands.
She loses her grip.
Yep.
Their plan goes to shit.
And the sad thing is, Stark stops trying to get the... So Stark and Spidey are trying to get the gauntlet off while everyone else restrains Thanos.
Drax and Mantis and... Strange, yeah.
And Stark stops trying to get the gauntlet off to try and restrain Quill. And Spidey's almost got the gauntlet off.
Yeah.
It's coming off of Thanos' hand.
And he grabs it right
at the end.
Yep.
God damn. And then just decimates everybody.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Yep. And then, so then that leads into
the Wakanda battle.
And that stuff's going on. Of course, we already talked about Banner defeating one of the children. We did talk about you said his name earlier.
The Maw.
Yeah.
On the way to Titan, Stark, Strange, and Peter kill the Maw by ejecting him out into space by using a pop culture reference from Aliens, which I really dug that. I thought it was hilarious. The pop culture references, we've already touched on that in this film, were on point, no doubt.
All right, so Thanos ends up stabbing Stark. I love that last part because Stark's suit is like struggling to regenerate itself over and over and over again as he just keeps getting pounded and pounded.
But he keeps coming back.
Yes.
And it really... throughout that whole exchange, Thanos... At the end of that exchange, Thanos kind of gives Stark a revelation that Stark hasn't been the only one that's been having these dreams. Thanos has also been having these dreams, almost like their minds are slightly connected. So Thanos stabs Stark right in the gut, which is an immediate death sentence.
Yep.
But he miraculously survives.
Well,
due to the sacrifice of the Time Stone.
Yeah, Strange says, stop. If you spare his life, I'll give you the Time Stone. And he's like, no tricks. There's no tricks. He hands it over. And then Tony's like, at this point, he's like, no, I'm dead. Don't. Don't. And he's going against exactly what he said he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Parker, when it comes to Stark. And then their life versus the Time Stone. I'm saving the Time Stone. So why suddenly is Strange giving it up? Because this is the one outcome where they win. They have to lose to win.
Mm-hmm. I love the way that they set that up. Because initially throughout that fight, I was like, okay, they fucked it up. They've lost their opportunity. Peter messed up, and now shit's not happening the way that it's supposed to. But in reality, that's the way it was supposed to play out the whole time.
All right, so in Wakanda, they're still trying to get that stone out of Vision. They end up storming where Shuri's trying to get it out. Vision's fighting one of the sons. And it's seemingly like they've kind of fought them at bay. They've kind of saved Vision, and then that's when he starts feeling more pain, and he's here. Thanos is now left Titan via the Space Stone, and he is here.
So Banner kills the Hulk-esque
the big
child of Thanos, and then in a really well done battle sequence, I thought.
Yeah.
A Black Widow and
Scarlet
Witch, and I always forget the Wakandan general's name.
Is she Oki? How do you say her name?
I don't remember.
But she's Denai Guerrero. She's from Walking Dead.
Yes.
Michonne.
Yep. They kill Proxima Midnight, the female child of Thanos. Mm-hmm. So there's only one child left. Cap goes in to save Vision, and Vision ends up stabbing him with his own spear. Mm-hmm. And then that's when Vision experiences the pain.
Yep.
And here comes Daddy, big old Thanos.
And he starts tossing people aside. Everybody starts converging. He ends up putting the Hulkbuster into the rock.
Mm-hmm.
he just takes War Machine and crumples him and tosses him down. We get that scene of Captain holding
The Infinity
the
Gauntlet.
gauntlet and him just like finally just taking his other hand and hitting him. But then, here's Vision going, we have no time. We have to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you have that, sheer, because since him and Scarlet, they're together and she has to kill him.
Yep, because she's the only one that has that power.
Yeah. And then, of course, the whole time that Thanos is fighting off these guys, slowly doing the walk towards, she is trying to destroy it. And then she succeeds right when Thanos gets there. And then, of course, has that, heartbreak. And then, of course, what did he just get?
He got the Time Stone. Rewinds time.
Boom.
Rips the Mind Stone out of the Vision's head, and the Vision is seemingly dead.
Completely black. Soulless.
Completely black.
Done.
And Thor comes in to save the day.
With the fucking axe, man.
Boom. Stormbreaker hits Thanos right in the chest, and that was one of those scenes where parts of a scene where I jumped to the edge of my seat. I wanted to jump up in the air and exclaim, "They did it! They beat Thanos!" Well, Thanos says you should have aimed for the head, and with his hand, the gauntleted hand reaches up and snaps, and people start to disintegrate.
Well, first he goes off into...
Oh, yeah, he uses the Space Stone and teleports out of there.
Well, not right away. He's actually...
Oh, that's right.
You go into this other realm which is basically inside the Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm. And you see the gauntlet is severely damaged. His arm looks like it's been burned or extremely dehydrated.
Well, it's like it couldn't withstand that kind of power. And Thanos has a conversation with Child Gamora, and seemingly inside the Soul Stone. Apparently, the Soul Stone, whoever you kill, whatever enemies that basically are taken with the Soul Stone, are held within the Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's thought that this is actually that the little girl is actually Gamora, like the soul of Gamora, and she goes, "Did you do it? What did it cost?" And he says, "Everything." And that's when we're sucked back. That's when we see the damaged gauntlet, and then he's gone. And then they're like, "What? What's going on?" And then Bucky's the first one to fall, and he just crumples. And then one by one,
people just crumpling into dust.
And a lot of them.
One thing, so of all the Avengers that we lose, we don't lose any first generation.
No. I have the full list. I actually got this ready earlier. Bucky, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Groot. Dude, that got me. That was the first one. I'm like, oh.
Yep, because Rocket's so distraught.
Star-Lord, Mantis, Drax, Spider-Man.
That one was fucking tough.
Yes, when he's like this little kid, dude. He's a high schooler.
I don't want to
Teenager.
go. I don't want to go. He just keeps telling Stark, "I don't want to go. I don't want to die." And Stark is holding Peter as he disintegrates.
And he just turns to ash in his hands, and then Strange goes, "It was the only way." As Strange fades away.
Mm-hmm.
And then, one of the last scenes we see is Thanos saying what he wanted to do afterwards. He was going to rest. He was going to go and see the sun, see the sights of what we can only assume is his new home or where he's living.
I would assume.
Not Titan, because Titan was
destroyed.
Well, yeah. And then that's how the movie ends. And then we get the after credit scene, which is Nick Fury
And Agent Hill.
and Agent Hill. They're driving. Of course, they are trying to make sense of everything of what's going on. Of course, we haven't seen them in quite some time. And, of course, there's an accident. And they're like, the driver of that car that wrecked in front of them is now probably just disintegrated. And we start getting to see the chaos that's ensuing because half of the life in the universe just got wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Hill start fading away. And then Fury starts like kind of running, and you see other people falling around him, and he gets this thing out of his pocket as he starts fading away. Really funny moment because
It's a pager.
It's a pager, but then he almost says "motherfucker" as per Sam Jackson, which that got a rise out of me too.
Yep, me too.
And then of course the pager falls, and it's leading on sending ...
Captain Marvel.
And then, so yeah, I have a list on who's remaining.
All of the first generation Avengers.
Captain America, Black Widow, Iron Man, Bruce Banner, War Machine, Okioe, or Denai Guerrera. She's still around. Rocket Raccoon, and Nebula.
I was kind of surprised to see Nebula and Rocket survive, but it kind of makes sense. Rocket was something that was genetically engineered. He's not a naturally born being, and Nebula is no longer really living. She's kind of a robot.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I mean, if you really want to nitpick it.
I guess she's Stark's way off of Titan. They said that we don't see if either M'Baku or Shuri disappear. I think we saw, when people started disappearing, we saw M'Baku and he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think M'Baku's gone.
And then, of course, I think when we get the new Ant-Man movie is going to be playing out as, their own story until the end, and then
people start disintegrating.
Yeah.
Would make sense.
And then, of course, it's like, what the hell? And the movie ends, and then we get an after credit scene or something. And then, of course, we get March next year. We get Captain Marvel, her story in the 90s, which is going to lead up, into the end of, we're going to see where she comes in, and she is reportedly going to be the most powerful Avenger or member of the MCU to date.
Okay, my question for Captain Marvel, and I've been waiting this whole time to ask this question. Do you think she's going to come in and just steamroll everything, or do you think that Captain Marvel is going to be the one that gives just enough to turn the tide?
I don't know. I mean, because you could easily do like a Superman thing and have her steamroll it, where it's like, where the hell she been, right?
Right.
And I assume we're going to get that answer, why she has been sitting out this entire time with the alien invasion, with Sokovia, with all this shit going on. Where the hell has she been? I assume we're going to get that answer. But
do you think her film's going to be the Kree Skrull stuff? Because it's confirmed that Ronan is in that film. But other than that, I don't know anything else.
Yeah. I don't know much else either. That's pretty much what I've heard. She's in it, he's in it, and Jackson's in it. Sam Jackson's in it. So Fury, because obviously Fury,
right? When
Fury first meets Tony, he says a line like, "Do you think you're the first, superhero to ever lace a pair of boots or or do this kind of stuff?"
Mm-hmm.
And basically, back then they didn't know, but that's that was almost like a throwaway line, but in a way they're going back to that, saying that
it's the theme is foreshadowing, man. I'm telling you.
Yep.
There's dialogue that has been said for the last 10 years that we don't think anything about, and it's if we dissected every movie line by line, we would find shit that's pointing to everything that we've watched.
When you're looking at like an MCU movie, to me, this movie is the Empire Strikes Back of this of this series, of this franchise. You're not ever going to be able to duplicate this in the same way again. When you because when you're in it, and you're in it when you're attached to these characters. It's like when Bucky falls down and you're thinking about Bucky from all the Cap movies and their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And Cap has to watch that. When you're looking at, Falcon, and then there's like...
Well, then you hear War Machine wanting to know where Falcon's at. He's yelling to see where Falcon's at.
Exactly. And then...
And they're two people that don't even get along.
Yeah. And then, you have Drax, he's going. And then Quill goes. And then, of course, like you said, the whole emotional, like, there's Tony. Tony didn't want Peter Parker there.
Yeah, he didn't even want him there.
No. And then how much do you think he feels responsible for that?
Mm-hmm.
Even though like they failed, like, even though this is on a massive scale as it is, he had to be the one to hold him.
Yep.
As his kid was terrified.
The only thing that I'm worried about, I feel like they've almost backed themselves into a corner with the writing, because they've kind of set the precedent up until this film that nobody's really dead once they're dead. And I feel like we were duped a little bit.
We are definitely going to get a Dragon Ball Z ending, I feel, where a lot of this is undone, most of it. I feel like anybody who was killed pre-Snap or pre-Soul Stone, I think Gamora's still probably going to come back.
Okay. But you're saying like Loki and the Asgardians, and
Loki
that
and the
makes
Asgardians
sense.
Collector, they're gone. But like when I was thinking that she's in a Soul Stone, I'm thinking anybody else who got snapped is also in there. Half the universe is in that Soul Stone.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're able to undo it, that's how they all come back.
Do you? Because here's where I'm at as far as the next film. I feel like, regardless of what way that they find to restore everybody, somebody's got to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have talked about that a lot. And I always go back to Cap as being the one.
He's the jump on the grenade guy.
Well, and it goes back to that line in the original Avengers film when he says, when him and Tony are exchanging on the helicarrier, he says, "You're not the guy to lay on the barbed wire and let your men crawl over top of you while you're dying. You're sacrificing yourself for everybody else." And Tony has proved over and over again that he's willing to go to those lengths, but his persona always overshadows that, and he's so deeply ingrained into PTSD and his failing mental health right now that, especially after leaving Peter or losing Peter, it doesn't make sense for me for anyone else to be the one to make that sacrifice.
Look at their character arcs, how they were this, and then did this,
mm-hmm.
and then they're going to have to do this again.
Yep.
They die together.
Ooh, I never thought about it that way.
They both fight. I'm it. It's both of them. And then so these two characters who had such a bad falling out
go out back to back.
Yes. Because you have this whole line of other characters ready to step up in those roles. Captain Marvel, with Thor's going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Strange will be around. X-Men, Fantastic Four, those guys coming in. Be interesting.
I like that. Especially, those two are the biggest budgets in the franchise.
Those two are the biggest budgets, but they're also the cornerstone of this entire thing. They
right.
They are the two biggest, and Thor's right there with them now. But I mean, like, those two are like, everything hinges in the whole Civil War thing. Are you on Cap's side or Iron Man's side? And it's like having them both fight to be the one to have to sacrifice themselves. Tony's like, it should be me. Captain's like, well, it's always me. So it's like, not this time. Well, yes, this time. And of course, it's both of them. I think that'd be beautiful storytelling.
I would agree. I really like. I haven't thought about it that way, and I really like that.
Well, we are 2 hours and 4 minutes into our segment of. I don't know how long Nate's going to go with whoever he's going to talk to. So, I really enjoyed this movie. I stand by what I said. I believe this is a once in a franchise thing. If they're able to duplicate this later on at a later date, it's going to have to be a much. They can't do it within 5 movies. They're going to have to do it once with a whole new cast of crew that people are attached to, with Galactus eating a world or something.
You don't think 4 will be along the same scale?
I think it's gonna have to have a different feel in terms of starting off. You're gonna be reeling from this.
Okay.
And then it's gonna have to be like, we have to do X, Y, and Z. We already tried A through that. We gotta come up with a plan. Is there any way that, because there's gonna be a lot of loss and hope and hopelessness, and whether or not they can stop him and go back and get even revenge, or then it's going to be can we undo it? And someone's going to have that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's going to have to conceptualize that. So I don't know who does that. I don't know where that starts. There's even a thought that Vision's not gone, that Shuri was able to save.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot throughout
him.
today, that Shuri might have the ability, because she was poking around in his head so much.
Yeah.
She's got 90% of him.
Yeah.
Let's get Vision back.
So, yeah, dude, I really enjoyed this film.
Me too.
I really enjoyed it as an MCU film going forward. This is definitely a winner. I feel like it lived up for the most part. It was long. Didn't necessarily feel it all the way through, but, bouncing back and forth, it wasn't that hard to follow. Timeline was a little wonky. I'll forgive it for it because it's very entertaining, and when it kept you gripped, as you said, on the edge of your seat. They did so much right in this movie that I feel like it overshadows the little things that are wrong.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this segment, I feel like throughout the film, and as now I talk about it and I continue to decompress, I feel like I really have to look to nitpick it. And right now, as we're talking right now, it's the second highest opening box office ever. It deserves that. It 100% deserves that. So I really enjoyed it. I would definitely be willing to see it in theaters again, if somebody asked me. So I look forward to more good things from Marvel and Disney.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for our segment. Thank you for joining me, Tyler. This was needed for both of us, I think.
We've been talking about this for so long.
Well, and we have other stuff we got to do tonight. The real reason why we were here was to do that stuff, and we got to get that stuff done. So we thank you guys for checking that out. Of course, you can check out Tyler every Thursday on the Podcastrophe show on the Journey into Comics network. You can check me out on JIC Game Addicts. I'm over there on that feed as well. And of course, you can please go check out our new show, Podcast Menace. How did that work out that we got paired up to do this, and we can plug that show too? That just worked out.
It does.
Just like how this movie just set up certain pairings that worked so well together. One of my favorite scenes. I like as much as I got chills when Thor came in, throwing down lightning, just wiping out shit with that axe. Bucky holding up Rocket,
spinning around.
They're both shooting. I loved that scene. That was great.
Probably my favorite scene, and it's one of the most gut-wrenching scenes, is where Thanos claims the mind gem, puts it in his gauntlet, and then Stormbreaker comes flying through the air, embeds itself in his chest, and Thor says, "I told you that you would regret." I told you I'd kill you, or it's that. And it is immediate, the upper echelon of happy emotion. We fucking did it. We saved the day. Right at the last minute. And should have aimed for the head. Thanos just confidently, you should have aimed for the head. Snap. That you can't do better than that. Absolutely. So. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to get back to the other part of the show to end the show. I don't know. I'm not going to do the plugs. I think I'll let Nate do the plugs. So back to you, Nate. Hopefully that's all you have left to talk about is the plugs. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.
Well, that was fun. And now we're back. And we're now in Scotland. We're out of nowhere. We're in a different part of the journey now. Making our way eventually, hopefully, to Wakanda, I would say. But it's time, V.
It's time.
It's motherfucking time. If by any chance you're here, and if by any of those chances that you are here, you've not seen Infinity War, but you enjoyed all of the build-up to this moment, please go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Journey into Comics for you is done now.
We love you.
But for those of you who have actually continued to watch the movie, or who have actually watched the movie, you get to continue on this journey with us through the Infinity War, an epic special that we're doing of epic proportion and scale and size. And also I want to mention that, you know, there was a lot of talk about when we were putting this episode together, like all the fans are bumping and buzzing about, you know, where Blaine is going to be in the episode. And I'm safe to report he's not on this episode. He unfortunately is on house arrest right now after the Sokovia Accords went down. You know, he decided that it would just be best to hang back with the family on the farm and be retired and be on house arrest for a little bit. He took a
Probably a
plea
smart
deal.
call.
It was probably a smart deal, Blaine. So we are thinking about you, buddy. And I'm sure that by the time the next portion of Infinity War comes around, we'll need your help to solve this great mystery. But V, we're going to break down this fucking movie in some pretty cool detail. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, this was a big one.
Enormous, gimassive. Those aren't words, I know.
Yeah.
That's how big it is. Mm-hmm. You have to make up new words for that. Right, they don't play... Okay, so Marvel credit rolls, the Marvel thing. And for the first time, instead of it being like any kind of...
Superhero theme.
It's silence.
So it's
And-
already like, wah, wah.
And you're like,
Debbie Downer.
something's not right. You're hearing the distress call from the ship
But you knew,
Oh.
based off of the end credits of the last movie,
of Ragnarok.
of
Yeah,
Ragnarok, that this was what was going to happen. You're like, okay, peace out, Asgard.
yeah, what was left of Asgard on that ship is gone. At least so you would think is probably what's going to happen. And we find out right out of the gates in Infinity War that yes, that is what's happening.
You were correct.
The Black Order, which is Ebony Maw, Cull Obsidian, Corvus Glaive, and Proxima Midnight.
All names that I've never heard of until right now.
I know they did
Even
it. Well,
having
no, not
seen
true.
the movie.
Actually,
Didn't catch 'em.
Ebony Maw's name is mentioned a couple times because Thanos asks if the Maw is dead at one point in the movie to Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a short bit here. But this movie definitely doesn't play around. You know,
No, this movie ain't fucking around.
Kevin Feige said, first 5 minutes of this movie, you're gonna know we're serious about this, what we're trying to accomplish, and they were dead on. So it seems that the Black Order and Thanos show up on the Asgardian ship, and they do what Thanos has been doing. They let half of them live and execute the other half as a mercy, right? And here's an interesting thing. You never see Korg, you never see Valkyrie. Never mentioned, not heard of, meaning they're most likely still alive on the Asgardian half that did not get wiped out.
Oh, I didn't even think about the other half.
I
I
mean,
just thought they were all dead.
They are not all dead. I mean, I wouldn't assume all of them are dead because some of them would have been able to escape or get out of there and have an opportunity to do so. You know?
In space?
Yeah, well, because there's escape pods and stuff.
Okay.
What if Korg and Mike were downstairs hanging out and they heard a distress and they were like, oh shit, Thanos is here, let's piece the fuck out. Let's not be a part of this.
Well, seeing as we're just plopped right into the very thick of death and destruction,
yeah.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see for the next time.
So
Next movie.
Thanos already has the Power Stone from Xandar when we find him in the Gauntlet, and he's here to get the Tesseract from Loki, and Thor says that the Tesseract was destroyed on Asgard, which we know is not true. Mm-hmm. So Loki, after saying that Thanos could kill his brother, against his better judgment, decides, no, don't do that. Here's the Tesseract, you can have it. And then he tried to he actually said, he goes to give him the thing, and this is where the movie officially is picked up, because as he goes to give him the Tesseract, he tells Thanos, we have a Hulk. Mm-hmm. And then Thanos and Hulk just get into a duking it out battle that sets everything else in motion.
And that's when this movie really starts, because it's a little, like, the first few minutes is a little slow. We were talking about that. There's only, really two slow parts in this whole movie. The first being the first, 2 minutes of it.
And then,
And then
later,
as soon as Hulk comes in and just starts beating ass, it's like, okay, this movie's really started.
well, he tries to beat ass. We think he's got the hand.
Right.
And
But no, it's Thanos.
and he just he fucked up Banner enough to where he was like knocked unconscious as the Hulk.
Right, so Mr. Hero Heimdall sends him
As his like last move with the Bifrost before, well, he knew he was going to die by doing this. I mean, it's a death call, but you essentially, and I don't know if you're aware of this, Hulk is Silver Surfer in the storyline of the actual Infinity Gauntlet comic. Because, see, in the comic, Silver Surfer comes crashing through the Sanctum Sanctorum where Doctor Strange and Wong find him, and he says Thanos is coming. And
So in the movie, it's Bruce.
it's Bruce instead. So before we get to that part, though, Loki decides to one last time pledge his undying allegiance. Very important. He says he'll pledge his undying allegiance to Thanos. And as he does, he tries to get daggers out. You know, he does his little dagger trick where he just, like, makes them show
Appear.
up out of fucking nowhere. And he goes to stab Thanos, who used the fucking space stone to just stop him in his tracks.
Yeah.
Boom, you can't move. Frozen in space, boom, enjoy. And says, oh, your undying allegiance. Poor choice of words. And grabs him by the neck, and we get our second major death. Right out of the gate in Infinity War. First Heimdall getting stabbed by way of Thanos and the weapon of Corvus Glaive, but then obviously,
Loki.
man, that
Right
one
in front of Thor.
fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Because like all the times you've seen Loki die before, this one,
This one felt pretty final.
man, like choked out, his neck snapped, his eyes were bulged out of
Yeah,
his head.
it was pretty savage.
Like,
this
and-
movie's not fucking around.
And then he just gets dropped in front of him. Boom, the explosion happens. Sanctum Sanctorum. There's Hulk.
This movie just jumped from little storyline to storyline,
It
which
has
I kind
to.
of liked. You know, I
It-
appreciated it because every story felt like it was developed.
Not only developed, it led you where you needed to go without you realizing that was where you wanted to be.
Right.
And it was like
It
every
gave you what
time-
you needed.
And
you know.
I feel like every time they did the jump, it was like you'd be gone from certain characters for a while, and you'd be like, "Damn, where the fuck
What
is
are they
Star-Lord?
doing?"
What are
Yeah.
they doing?" And boom, here they'd come on the screen.
And gave you what you
right-
wanted.
right around when you would think you'd need somebody. So I really did enjoy that. So obviously, Banner crashing into the Sanctum Sanctorum kind of shakes shit up. And as this is all happening, Tony and Pepper are in the park. They're having conversation and trying to plan out their future. And he's talking about, this was a great mystery. He had the arc reactor again.
Yep.
And everyone's like, what the fuck, that got removed in Iron Man 3? Like, what? He said he was giving up being Iron Man,
Right, but
but the arc reactor is still there. Like, what's going on? But what you learn is it just is a housing unit for his nanotech. So
yeah,
his suit can
suit.
just... It
Where's his super suit?
It kind of reminded me of Black Panther's suit, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Which they never make the connection if the nanotech is from Wakanda or not, you know. But right as they're like saying, oh, no more surprises, Tony keeps saying, no more surprises to Pepper. We're done with surprises. This is just if there's a monster in the closet, no more surprises. As soon as he says that, a big hole opens up.
And surprise.
Here comes Dr. Stephen Strange meeting Tony for the first time. Holy shit, epic moment. Tony Stark, I'm going to need you to come with me. And he's like, you handing out tickets or something, pal? Like, he's like, what in the fuck? You know, because he has never interacted with Strange or know anything about him.
Right.
You know? So,
Like, Tony's a man of science, not wizardry.
exactly. And I love that he keeps calling him a wizard, just
Yeah.
like through and through, you know? It's a line that you frequently get used to. So he goes to the Sanctum Sanctorum because Bruce shows up. And I will say, I want to mention this after the second viewing, that watching RDJ's reaction to Mark Ruffalo's return was like literal shock and heartbreak of like, something's wrong if you're here because you've been gone for a long time and I don't even know what the fuck.
Right.
You know, so what is going on? And then he's like, Thanos is coming. He's a plague, Tony. He just wiped out. Thor is dead. He tells Tony
Right,
Thor
yeah.
is dead because it seems like Thor was killed because he got exploded by the Power Stone. So, well, at least you think he got exploded by the Power Stone. Anyways,
Right.
so
Sorry, I'm eating these sour belt candies
you're
while
fine.
we're talking.
No, you're fine. It's totally, absolutely okay. But so they're talking and they're trying to discuss the plan. Of course, Tony, being the egotistical maniac that he is, kind of assumes that he's the leader, but he doesn't really know dick compared to Doctor Strange and Wong, obviously, who kind of have a better handle on things. So while they're kind of all bickering and talking, Banner gets filled in on the reality that is the news from Civil War, and that the Avengers are no more. They've been broken up, and Cap and Tony are not on speaking terms, and one beautiful, hilarious quip in the movie, "But you guys are breaking up? You mean like a band? Like the Beatles?" Like, it was perfect, you know? Because it just is that little bit of comic levity this movie needs consistently. That's one thing it does consistently, is give you enough comic levity to when the dark shit happens, man.
And I appreciate that they did that with Thor's character. They brought him out of that, like, really stiff medieval Thor and more into, like, the Thor that was in Ragnarok.
And one thing you got to think about when talking about the Thor character is that fits his progression, because you got to think Thor is stuck in Asgard, and in the very, very beginning of all this, he's living his life in Asgard. Then he has his first exposure to the Avengers in Avengers, and then he's gone, and then he goes back and he's dealing with dark elves and bullshit, and then he has a second time with the Avengers, so he's learning to be human more. It's the human
I like his
side.
evolution.
Correct. So then by the time he goes out into Ragnarok, he's a more humanized Thor. He's a funny, witty, kind of joke-making-y guy, because he's picked up human parts from being around humans.
Right. Well, I blame Guardians of the Galaxy for the Thor transformation, because of the success of that movie. They had to have been like, yeah, we need to make this shit a little bit funnier.
Well, yeah.
Especially after Thor Dark World. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, but Thor Dark World serves a great purpose. That's where the ether comes from. That's where the Reality Stone is in the MCU. It does serve a purpose. It's not a terrible movie. It's just a poor narrative.
Yeah.
Which we don't even need to get into that today, because they've got a bigger fish to fry. So they're bickering and stuff, and it's like, Tony, make the call. Tony, call Cap with the flip phone that Cap gives him, which I love. That he gives him the old flip phone. And he's like, "You wouldn't happen to be moving your hair right now, would you, Doc?"
Yeah, the wind is blowing.
And Strange is like, "No." And then I will say one thing this movie did that made, like even right now, my heart just started racing thinking about it a little bit, seriously, is the silence. When it went silent and you would hear, like, the wind or the Q ship coming down or whatever, like, it felt, holy fuck. Taking the soundtrack out of it put you on the street in New York.
Right, knowing that this is different.
So this Q ship has showed up, and they're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, and Strange sends a blast to it to try to kick some of this stuff back, the dust and whatnot, and just then it cuts to Parker. He's on the bus.
Oh, yeah, the Spidey senses tingling.
And we're going to talk about Spidey sense later, and it's going to be heartbreaking. It's, okay, so he's like, he kind of slaps Ned in the face, and he's like, "Ned, create a distraction," and Ned doesn't really hear what he says. Like, you can tell Ned doesn't hear him. He just sees the ship, and he's like, "Holy shit, we're all gonna die!" And he runs to the back. Stanley's cameo.
Bus driver.
Awesome. What? And this is a line I didn't catch because of the crowd. They popped so loud for Stanley, I didn't catch what line he even said in the movie. Could you tell me what he said?
I don't remember. No. What?
What, have you kids never seen a spaceship?
Oh, no, I didn't catch that.
Because the crowd was clapping the whole time through it.
Yeah.
His cameo was so short that the clapping just overlapped his line. You know, Parker goes off and heads towards the Q ship, and then we kind of get into the real fun, because now it's like Ebony Maw has showed up with Cull Obsidian, and Maw, you know, just the very peaceful Ebony Maw. You know, I love that character. Oh, it was so perfect to the comics.
This movie was so Doctor Who.
Oh, also very much. So there's the big fight scene on the street there, and the ultimate goal being that Strange is going to get captured and taken on the Q ship, taken back to Thanos because of the Time Stone.
It's under a spell. Can't get it.
Yeah, which I think I have a thought on the spell, which is that while the stone is not actually in the necklace, no one can get in it at all. That's the basic spell. That's not a death curse, because you would never think about that. Anyways, so this is where shit really picks up, because Spidey shows up, and Tony's like, "Oh, hey, kid, like, we're fighting these aliens. There's wizards. Shit's weird. Aliens in space." And he's like, "Okay, Mr. Stark, like, how can I help?" And then he's like, "Go chase that wizard, because the cape has taken the, like, knocked out Doctor Strange and is trying to get him away from Ebony Maw." Mm-hmm. And ultimately, Ebony Maw puts him in the ship. And we get the beautiful scene where Parker is on the Q ship. It's going into space. Mm-hmm. We've seen it in the trailers. Tony's shooting towards it. And Parker going high enough into space. What's going to happen?
Get knocked out.
He can't breathe. Mm-hmm. So he passes out. But luckily, 17A gets shot from Friday and Stark's tower.
Yeah.
I screwed that up.
Mm-hmm.
And 17A is the Iron Spider. And
it looked dope.
Oh my god! Look, big fan of the comics, huge.
And you said that the second time you saw this movie, it was in 3D, so that was part of the thing that benefited from the 3D was Spider-Man.
Oh, definitely, in several scenes.
Because I didn't see it in 3D, so I don't know.
We did not see it on premiere night in 3D. My dad just prefers it. It really gets him.
Well, I wear glasses, so I prefer not to, just because I get kind of headachy if
that's
you know.
Better. Butt cheek was hurting in that chair.
Oh, you're adjusting.
I'm gonna just adjust here. Anyways, back to it. So
Spidey,
flips and he lands on the Q ship and he's got the awesome Iron Spider thing, and then Iron Man's like, "Friday, send him home," and the parachute deploys and takes Parker away. Mm-hmm. And Iron Man gets in the Q ship. He sneaks in, And right as soon as we're getting acclimated with this story, here come the Guardians. Mm-hmm. And we get another shift in the movie. Tonally, here we are in a whole different place. And they're singing, and it's Guardians, It's about the music.
Yeah.
And they're kind of in this moment, and they're going to this distress call, and Rocket's like, "Why are we going?" And they're like, "Because someone might need our help." And then Quill's like,
might pay us.
They might pay us. And then Drax is like, "And if they don't pay us, we'll take their ship." And then everyone's like, "Yeah," except for Gamora. And then I love that Quill looks at her and he's like, "We're not going to take the ship." Like, he's like, "We're not going to do that.
Don't
I
worry,
promise."
we really won't do that.
Don't worry, we won't. But as they're
Groot's playing his video game.
And then,
like a moody teen.
We don't know what he says, but "I am Groot," like all like pissy.
Snotty.
And they're like, "Whoa," like, don't talk like that to us, kid. This is obviously where we find Thor. He's floating. Boom, he smashes into the thing. Mantis
Still alive.
uses her powers to feel. He feels great anguish and suffering and anger and agony and all these things because of what he just witnessed. And they wake him up, and he's got this, man, there's some beautiful moments between Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, that was an interesting scene. I liked it. It was Peter Quill's masculinity was called to question in his own mind.
"You are a dude. This is a man."
Yeah.
"Don't pet his muscles." And she throws his hand down. It's like, "Okay, fine. I'm getting that's it. I'm getting a Bowflex." Like.
Oh yeah, and then they called him fat.
Yeah, they essentially call. Yeah, Rocket says, "What you're one." What did he say? He's like, "You're one donut away from being fat," or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But
rude.
Super rude. Ultimately, Thor's like, "I need to create a weapon to kill Thanos."
Yeah.
And he's gonna go to, and I got it, Nidavellir. That's the place.
Nice.
Where there's the giant dwarf. I can't remember his name. It starts with an E. It's like EL. I'm gonna look up what it's Peter Dinklage's role. Spoiler alert. Oh wait, we're in the spoiler portion of this thing. So if you're not turned back by now, it's much, much, much too late. Peter Dinklage. Do you want to carry on with what kind of starts in? After Nidavellir, the news that Thor is heading there, which, by the way, the whole Chris Pratt deepening his voice.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
"You're doing it right now."
Yeah, I felt like I just wanted to keep watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like, that's what I thought it was.
It was gonna
I was
morph
like,
into.
could it just be Guardians of the Galaxy 3, please? I can't wait for that. but I don't know. When is that supposed to be coming out?
Guardians 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2020.
2020.
Which shockingly is only a year and a half away.
Whoa. Oh my God, it's 2018. That's right.
Isn't that crazy? You guys, okay,
That
time
freaked
out.
me out.
That was the greatest podcast moment that no one will ever see because podcasts are not visible. But your face just then, when the realization that only a year and a half from now we will be in 2020.
See, for me, I still feel like it's 2015 or something.
I know, it feels like 2008 or some shit up in, yeah.
God.
So,
I'm like the type of person that feels like 10 years ago was still like 1995.
Dinklage's character was called E-Tree.
Okay.
E-Tree, that's right.
I wouldn't have known that.
So they're in they go to Nidavellir to find E-Tree, and we'll get into that in a minute. But before we go there, we actually end up in Scotland, as we talked about.
Yeah, for the only other really slow part of this movie.
Which is slow. They're trying
for a reason, whatever.
Yeah, for a reason. They're building the Scarlet Witch Vision thing. He's human for this one thing, which I kind of like that they did that for this movie because it gave Paul Bettany, thank you, an opportunity to be normal selfed,
Yeah, I liked
in
that.
a movie.
I love their relationship. I like that there is a romance aspect to this movie. I mean, as a woman, I can appreciate that as whatever, but it was a little slow.
Yeah, it was slow for a minute, and then jump scare moment.
Yeah, that was super
'Cause
rude.
Corvus
The only jump scare in the movie.
Because Corvus Glaive stabs Vision through his back, and Vision couldn't phase through it. He didn't even see it coming, so it's like all too late.
Right.
And shit gets rough. And another
Poor
scene,
Vision, this whole movie, he just gets like pwned.
This is Vision's worst day at work.com,
Yeah.
Like Vision gets fucked at work.com,
And then when they like, that's a harsh one. Rough day. Should have stayed in bed, dude.
Robot explodes on young woman. Like that's the Pornhub for Vision's bad day,
Gross.
So anyways, he's getting the shit kicked out of him and Scarlet Witch is trying her best too. They end up getting thrown into like a train station-y place where...
And then backup shows up.
Boom. Here comes Captain America. Here to whip some ass with Black Widow and Falcon.
Sporting a new blonde hairdo.
Yeah, so they are all together and they defeat and stop Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. And of course, Black Widow does definitely make a fuck up here. They should have killed him.
Yeah.
Because, and actually, she says, Proxima Midnight says, if you didn't kill us now, you're not going to get the chance again.
Right.
And we'll get into that.
But
yeah. So
that's flash
coming out
forwarding.
of that, they end up going back to Avengers Tower where Rhodey is talking to Thunderbolt Ross, who is one of our surprise cameos. As is Stephen McFeely, who wrote the movie. They're in the holograms, the council, the high council that's like running the accords and everything. Essentially, he's trying to tell Rhodey to arrest Cap when they show up. And he's like, yep, nope, we need him. Like, you're fucking dumb. Like, oh, there's the court-martial. Doesn't matter. Good to have you back. Like, let's get on the mend. And, Rhodey tells them, you guys look essentially like shit. Falcon saying, like, well, there's not really many great 5-star hotels when you're on the run. And here comes Bruce Banner to reunite with Natalie. Or Natasha, sorry. And every time they call her Nat because of your sister Nat, it just
I think of Natalie.
It just like, for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Natasha.
So, yeah, Natasha Romanoff reunites with Bruce, and it's like a good to see, a good feel-good moment. And they realize...
that was a long time coming.
They realize there's only one place that they can go. And that is...
Wakanda. Forever.
So Panther, we jump to Panther, and he is telling Okoye that the war's coming, like, the fight's coming to us. We got to go get some shit done. And they
got to go get Bucky.
They go give Bucky his new arm, his vibranium arm. And man,
which led to a really cool scene later in the movie with Rocket.
Absolutely, which was another huge moment. There's a scene that like is forever burned in my head that I want to talk about later. So, we're jumping through all this stuff, and also, Thanos is still on his mission.
Right, he wants to wipe out half of existence.
While Thor and company went to Thor, Rocket, and Groot go to Nidavellir to find Eitri
to
the
get
elf.
the forge going to
For-
build the weapon for killing Thanos.
Stormbreaker.
Yeah, dumb name.
It's from the comics.
Dumb name.
While that's the case, Gamora, Drax, Quill, and Mantis are going to go to nowhere, where we were at in Guardians,
Right, to find the collector.
to find the Collector and get the Reality Stone. And they go there, and the lights are off, and no one seems home.
And Gamora's already made Quill promise to off her if she's going to get
That-
taken.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that led to a very funny moment that was an audible. I don't know if you all know this, but this was actually an audible by James Gunn. He was, because they all the directors were there for every bit of filming to interact and to discuss, like, this is what our characters would do in this scenario. How can we change it? And the eating thing with Drax when he's like moving really slow
Yeah,
was a James Gunn move.
that's funny.
Yeah, that they put in the movie. So that's really awesome. So anyways, when they get there, Thanos is foot on chest of the Collector.
Benicio, right?
Yeah, and he's not having a good day. And essentially, Thanos throws him in a cage, and Quill is still not. He is the captain of. Well, he's trying to be the captain, but after the fuck ups that he had made previously, it seems like Rocket's trying to be more of the leader and step up. And no one's really listening to Quill, anyways. He's like telling everybody to hold up when they're in nowhere, and they just keep walking past him. And he's like,
Right.
"Oh shit, okay, I guess we're going," And he tells Gamora and Mantis to go on their left, and they go to the right. And he's like, "Other left," like. And Gamora kills Thanos, and you're just like,
That was too easy.
wait, what? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then you hear this voice. Is that sadness I sense in you, daughter? Mm-hmm. I would not have expected that from you, And then it's like, boom, the Reality Stone has already been captured by Thanos. He was just fucking with them. Mm-hmm. Clever writing. It's brilliantly done. He reveals that what they were looking at wasn't even real. The Collector probably dead. Mm-hmm. You would presume he's another major death.
The whole place was engulfed in flames.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, there's I don't know. Do you ever see Arrested Development? Mm-hmm. Do you know the Tobias Funke character, the Blue Man thing? So there's a dude that looks exactly like that that's in the cage in the Collector's scene in that
Oh, really?
Because the Russo brothers directed several episodes of Arrested Development.
Oh, no shit.
So in Civil War, there's a car that has stairs on it, like a stair car for airport. Mm-hmm. It was from Arrested Development. They always sneak an Easter egg from Arrested Development.
Oh, that's funny.
So
I can appreciate that.
So Tobias Funke being in there, it wasn't actually the guy that plays him, but
yeah.
it was a species that looked like him.
I like
So-
Easter eggs. Those are fun.
Yeah, it was great. So Thanos, of course, this is when shit really, really starts to really get real because he captures Gamora, and this is the moment that she had warned Quill about. If it comes down to it and Thanos captures me, you kill me. Mm-hmm. You have to. You promise me.
She made him swear on his mother.
Ooh, and as soon as she said that to him, I was like, he knows she means it. Mm-hmm. That's the most serious thing she could say to him. Because
Right.
that's like you don't fuck around with Quill's mom, And Thanos has her, and Quill has the gun pointed at Thanos and says he's going to blow that nutsack for a chin off of his face and calls him Grimace and Hamburglar or whatever the fuck. It was Grimace, not Hamburglar. Grimace is the big purple guy. Is going to blow that nutsack of a chin off of his face, and then Gamora says, not him, me. Mm-hmm. And Quill's like, no, come on. Like, no. Like, I'm not going to do this. And Thanos is like, she asked, didn't she? Mm-hmm. Walks Gamora to Quill.
Makes him prove his love.
Makes him do it. And Quill goes to shoot her, and this is like heartbreak
Hard
of a
day at
moment.
work.
You're at the heart. You're fucking getting your soul ripped out right now. Gamora's gonna die.
Oh, yeah,
at the
and then
hands
they
of Quill,
exchanged love vows.
and it's an I love you, and then bubbles. Thanos has the Reality Stone. He's not gonna let Gamora die. Come on now.
No, he went through all the trouble to get her.
Boom. Space Stone disappears into the nothingness. He's got other plans. He goes back to his ship, and we are back on the Q ship where Doctor Strange is getting tortured. And Ebony Maw's torturing him and trying to get him to give up the stone. And we find out that Spidey snuck aboard the Q ship, even though he wasn't supposed to.
Yep.
Kind of works out, though, because while Tony's really pissed off at him, also Tony has a jump scare moment himself when the cape taps him on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, holy like, whoa, that's not cool. So Parker's like, hey, we got to come up with a plan. And Tony's like, okay, fine, what would you do? Like, you think you know it all, kid? What would you do? And he's like, you ever seen that really old movie, Aliens? And then they...
Throwing out pop references.
Yeah, so he just blows they end up...
Blows a hole in the hull.
And Ebony Maw gets sucked out, and it was awesome. Like, I was like, holy fuck, they got rid of Ebony Maw so fast. Mm-hmm. Except for Ebony Maw can't die because Thanos has the Reality Stone, which can change the laws of time, and every... We'll get into that. So, and we'll talk about that, too. So, and also, if they do anything like the comics, Ebony Maw actually has an artifact on him that makes it to where even if he dies, he doesn't die. He always resurrects.
But he's like frozen in space.
But he can still resurrect. All he has to do is be collected from Thanos, and he'll come back.
Can't we just be done with his storyline? Because even Thanos was like, oh, I've lost him.
Yeah, because he asks later if the Maw is dead. And Doctor Strange
And he doesn't do anything to remedy that, so...
Well, duh, the Maw is dead. So, anyways, now they are on the Q ship that is flying to Titan. And Tony and Strange get into it, and Strange is like, look, unlike most other people, I don't work for you. We need to get the Time Stone back to Earth. Tony's like, no, we have a better chance to take the fight to him where he's not going to expect it. That's the play. Make Thanos not expect what we're going to do, because he already has the upper hand, thinking we'll go back to Earth if we free ourselves. It's easy. So, anyways, they, I'm trying to think what happens after that, because it jumped around so much. Like, it kind of got jarring in a couple spots.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good. I just thought I lost you for a second.
No, I was just trying to think about where we were at in the timeline of this movie.
'cause I feel
it's getting
like-
late and stuff, you know.
So it's, I feel like they probably go to the Forge, right?
Yeah.
Where E-Tree is, and we find out that Peter Dinklage is E-Tree, and he's a giant dwarf, which is awesome. And
Yeah.
He forged the gauntlet for Thanos, and then Thanos killed every dwarf except for him, and molded his hands in metal so he can never do anything again. But we learn that Thor's like, no, it's all in your mind. Like, we got to do this. He
has to reignite a
the
dead
dying
star.
Yep. And it's awesome. They used the pod that Rocket and Groot and him took. Groot stays with E-Tree. That's very important to note. Somebody asked, like, how was E-Tree hearing them when they were talking? Because they were talking on the comms. Groot had his comm with E-Tree. Rocket was with Thor trying to get the thing started. They eventually do get it started. But the thing that opens, the iris of it that opens it, blows out. The star power is just too much, and it just blows out. So Thor's like, fuck it, I'll stand there. And I will say this is like to me, this is the worst line in the movie, because Peter Dinklage is like, you'll die. and then Thor's like, not if it doesn't kill me. And he's like, but that's what dying means. You'll take the full brunt of the star, kid. You know, like, and I was just like, okay, come on, that's like a little corny. Anyways, so long story short, he forges Stormbreaker, but there's no handle. Groot's just sitting there, and his one moment in the movie that really lets him shine, he forges with his own twigs and branches a handle for Stormbreaker and chops his own arm off.
Yeah, that was dope.
And then shit's really about to pop off. But we got to jump back for a minute, because we got to get to Wakanda, where everybody shows up. They're going to work on Vision. They're going to try to
remove the
Mind Stone from him without any drama. And of course, Vision's failsafe is, this doesn't work. Wanda, kill me. You're the only one that can do it.
Right, she's the only one that's powerful enough to destroy the Mind Stone.
Literally the only one.
Because that would be the only way of preventing Thanos from having it.
Correct.
Is to be destroyed.
Correct. And that just ensures that he can't do the thing he wants to do.
Right, so a big battle ensues while, what's her name?
Shuri.
Shuri, yeah.
Is
she's
working
trying
on
to surgically,
Thanos.
take it out of him.
And then we jump yet again to Thanos on his sanctuary ship with Gamora, and the reveal where the Soul Stone is. Mm-hmm. It's on Vormir, and let's just go right to Vormir because this is a big, shocking, massive moment.
And they found that out through a torture scene with Nebula, like the only part that she was in the movie.
One of the few parts she's in, yeah. Which I love that she was all like taken apart, like she had been lunging at Thanos and he just stopped her and just pulled her apart.
It was nuts.
Ugh. So from her memories, Gamora says that she found a map to the Soul Stone and that that map has been burned, which means no one can get to it. She's the only one that knows. Mm-hmm. But that means that Thanos is going to make her tell her, or he's going to kill Nebula. And she admits it's on Vormir, so they go. And they start heading up the mountain of Vormir, and when they get right to the, top, a voice starts to call out, oh, Thanos, child, and you're like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh, man, I was not ready for this cameo.
Well, and then you see what I thought was fucking Lady Death, because it's the cape floating. I was like, oh my god, they said that Lady Death wasn't going to be a part of this movie, because essentially what we find out in the movie is that Gamora is not the actual love interest of Thanos, but everything Thanos is doing is out of love for Gamora, and we learn that in a really hard way coming up. But when you think Lady Death appears, boom, shocker,
Red Skull
shows
out of
up.
nowhere. That was crazy.
Ross Marquand, who plays Aaron in The Walking Dead, was actually... It wasn't Hugo
Weaving. Yeah, he wasn't in this movie.
Which means if that happened, that opens up now that since Hugo Weaving probably waived his right to be that character and Ross Marquand did such a good job, they can bring Red Skull back for more stories.
Yeah. And
that's huge. The possibility of that is epically huge. We could have Masters of Evil. There's a whole lot of stuff that could happen for that. So... they get to the top of Vormir, and Red Skull says the Soul Stone works very specifically, a soul in exchange for the stone, but it can only be the one you truly love. And Gamora's laughing. She's like, Thanos doesn't love anybody, so I win, you fucking lose, you can't get it. And she gets real cocky because she says, see, you were a child begging for a toy or treat, a prize, and the universe told you no. And you get what you deserve. And he turns around and he's crying. And she's like, at first she's like, oh, you're so fucking lame. Like, don't lay it on fake. And then she realizes that it's not.
He loves her.
He loves she's special to him because how he found her in the genocide of half her people. Which is awful, but... interesting, no less.
He thinks that he saved her and showed her mercy and turned her into the fiercest woman in the galaxy.
Yeah, and
which is why he loves her so much.
Yeah, so he throws her off, and
throws her off the fucking cliff.
She hits, bam. Thanos wakes up in the water off of the Lake of Vormir, and Soul Stone in hand. Mm-hmm. And now shit is really picking up, folks, because he's got 4 of 6. And he's heading back to Titan, where he's going to come up against a team of Guardians, which was awesome because the Guardians actually end up going to Titan, and they attack Spidey and Iron Man and Doctor Strange.
Right.
And, they end up being like...
They didn't realize they were on the same team.
And Quill's like, where's Gamora? Mm-hmm. And Iron Man's like, well, I'll do you one better. Who's Gamora? And then Drax is like, I'll do you one even better. Why is Gamora? And it's like, oh God, of course, Drax. I
love Drax.
So that scene is cool because it sets up this slight bond, but they're still not on the same page.
And that was fun dynamics to witness for the first time, like Chris Pratt and Robert Downey Jr.
They're 2 alphas. Mm-hmm. Think about it,
Yeah,
Will is his
they're
alpha.
They're all got a certain level of alpha,
and Strange is his own alpha. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So they're working on coming up with a plan, and Doctor Strange is sitting by himself, and Mantis is like, does your friend often do that? And when they look at him, he's twitching out and going all crazy. Mm-hmm. And he comes out of it shocked. And he goes, I went into the future to see all alternate timelines of how this possibly could play out. Quill's
how many were there?
14,605,000. How many did we win? And when we were at the theater, under my breath, I just like...
Everyone was like,
I gulped. Like, one, it's going to be one. And then Strange said one, and I was like, oh my God, this is awful and awesome all at once, because that just means it's not good. It's not hanging out long. You know?
Right.
So they, at that point, know they have to come up with a plan to beat him. So while that's happening, go back. We're in Wakanda. The battle is going and raging, and everything's going fucking crazy, and the war is brewing and whatnot. And amidst the attack from the Outriders that showed up in those crazy ships, Proxima Midnight and Cull Obsidian breach into Wakanda with all these Outriders. They open up the gates to Wakanda, and there's this epic battle ensuing. And while this epic battle is ensuing and all this crazy shit's happening, boom, the Bifrost shows up. And it's officially my favorite scene in the movie as far as awesome moments. Because when the Bifrost goes away, Thor is fucking standing there with Rocket on his shoulder and Groot by his side. And it's the fucking coolest moment. You're just like, holy fuck, this is about to pop off. And Stormbreaker is just like a crazy lightning thrower of death. And Thor is just epic, badass motherfucker that he is whipping all sorts of ass. But Scarlet Witch gets a little bit silly, and instead of guarding Vision, as they told her to do, she jumps into the field. As soon as she goes into the field, Proxima Midnight calls calls Corvus Glaive back to attack Vision.
Right.
And they get into their final battle sequence, and Shuri doesn't get the Mind Stone out of him. And now things are really looking bad. Back on Titan, the team, the group of the conglomerates that you got there, the Guardians and Spidey and everybody and all this great moment. There's also a funny Peter Quill moment with Parker. Because he's like, tell him about the dance-off to save the universe.
Oh, the Flash.
And Parker's like Footloose?
Footloose, yeah.
And Quill's like, yes, exactly like Footloose.
Is it still the greatest movie?
It never was. It never was.
It never was.
I loved that, just like threw it under the bus. So they formulate this plan and they execute the plan.
I just love Tom Holland as Spidey so much.
And
he does such a great job.
Again, I'm going to share
He's my favorite
a
Spider-Man.
little tiny tidbit of knowledge here in a few minutes when we get to the end of this. To get back to it, Thanos shows back up on Titan. He realizes stuff is going down. Doctor Strange is there. He says, I assume the Maw is dead. Yeah. So then it's on. They attack Thanos and they've got him.
They want to try to get the gauntlet.
They're going to get the gauntlet off of him. And they damn near have it off. I mean, Peter had it off of him. And Quill fucks up. He let his heart lead him, which is a very Peter Quill thing to do. Think of all the loss Quill has suffered. And having to find out that Gamora is gone. Mantis has Thanos in this trance, and he's just like, I had to. All like crazy because he's like, it's just a part of the mission to him. Right. And his ultimate mercy on the universe. He's trying to be the savior of the fucking universe, but he's the baddest dude in the universe. It's a very interesting way to look at it. So ultimately it comes down to it, and Quill says, you killed her, you son of a bitch, and he starts just punching the shit out of Thanos and hitting him and stuff. And
which pulls him out of the Mantis.
He's back.
Yeah.
And as soon as he comes to, he grabs the gauntlet and gets it back on. And now it's fucked up time. And he throws Mantis, and Parker goes and chases her. Interesting to note, Tom Holland didn't know a lot of facts about this movie. That can actually be heard in his dialogue when he's talking to certain people. Other than Stark, he never says anyone else's name. Ever. In the whole movie, he never named... He didn't say, he's Doctor Strange because he introduces him. But he doesn't call Quill. He doesn't call Gamora or any of those people. Not Gamora, but Mantis, any of them. And actually, when he's saving them in that moment when Thanos has knocked them all out, he's like, I'll save you. Sorry, I don't know any names.
Right.
Another funny moment from Spidey is when he's using the portals from Doctor Strange to kick Thanos, and he's like, magic again, magic with a kick.
Yeah, I loved it.
It was just so...
He's my favorite Spider-Man.
Whippy. He's the perfect Spider-Man. Absolutely.
Back to Wakanda?
No, because we're still in Titan, and things get worse for everybody, and ultimately Stark is going down. And it's looking like things are down for the count, and Tony Stark's going to die. And Strange says, I'll give you the time stone. Thanos is like, no tricks. He's like, I'll give it to you fair and clear. You can have it. Just spare
let
his
him
life.
leave.
And if you'll remember earlier in the movie, Doctor Strange said, if it comes down to saving you, saving that kid or the time stone, I won't hesitate to save the time stone.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he doesn't hesitate to save Tony Stark, a guy who he barely knows? Mm-hmm. Why is that, V? Why do you think?
Because he saw the future, and that was, like he said, the only way.
It's the only way. So everything, even Quill, fucking it up, Doctor Strange knew.
Mm-hmm.
He
it was
knew
the only way.
all of that was happening. He literally to a T watched it play out. Awesome moment with Doctor Strange where he made hundreds of himself, except for Thanos uses the Soul Stone and the Power Stone to knock him out. Soul Stone locates the only real soul of all those decoys. Power Stone knocks him out of the air. It's so awesome because when he's using certain stones, they glow.
Right.
You know, and only at certain times. Ultimately, so Doctor Strange gives him the Time Stone back to Wakanda. Proxima Midnight is fighting Scarlet Witch and Okoye and Black Widow. She gets the fuck kicked out of her and taken out. Banner is fighting Cull Obsidian. He tries to bring the Hulk out. The Hulk says no. He says, fine, you big green asshole. I'll do it myself. Call back to Avengers Age of Ultron when Thanos says, fine, I'll do it myself. So then...
It was nice to see Bruce stepping up.
In a different way. Yeah, he had to, too. Interesting to note, I thought I saw a spoiler for the movie right before we started watching it. I'm scrolling on Facebook, and I've got the pop vinyl groups that I'm still in. And somebody posted a pop vinyl that's from this movie. And
Which one?
It's Hulk busting out of the Hulkbuster armor.
Oh, so you thought it was going to be a spoiler?
It didn't happen in the movie.
No.
At all. So, obviously, we're building towards... Hulk being much more in tune with Banner the next time we see him. Maybe we get Grey Hulk, actually. Like the intellectual side. And it would be cool to see them build something different with...
I like how Hulk's character is evolving as well.
Also true. So he uses Hulkbuster to throw Cull Obsidian into the Wakandan
force field.
And he gets burnt and destroyed and whatnot.
Everyone cheers, hooray.
And everyone thinks things are cool. Corvus Glaive almost beats Vision, but with Cap's help, Vision kills Corvus Glaive. So now the entire Black Order has been taken out. The Avengers disposed of him like it was nothing. And there's a calm. And Vision feels off. And Cap's like, get ready, everyone. And here's the fucking holy shit times of times because Thanos is here. And he's using the fucking gauntlet like it's nothing. Here comes Hulkbuster at him. He just lets Hulkbuster phase through him like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Throws and destroys fucking Falcon. Crumples War Machine. Knocks out Captain America, who... Another thing about Cap is, think about how strong Captain America was. He was holding back fucking Thanos with 5 of the 6 stones in the gauntlet.
He's pretty fucking strong.
That's crazy to think about, you know.
He's a super soldier.
So, Thanos shows up right as Scarlet Witch is starting to take out Vision and destroy the Mind Stone within him. And he's like, we're out of time. It's the only way. It's the only way to save the universe. And she's sad. And as she's fucking and using her fucking powers, Thanos is coming at her and she's holding him back. Again, showing how powerful Scarlet Witch can become. Like, they're really diving into her power ability, holding Thanos back. And eventually, boom, Vision explodes. And you're just like, holy fuck, they just killed yet another major character. Son of a bitch. And I didn't, though. Because I was like, yeah, but Thanos has the time stone.
I know.
And he hasn't
That's
used
why
it
I
yet
didn't.
in the movie.
I didn't feel like I was emotionally involved in this movie just because of the concept of a time stone.
But the time stone doesn't necessarily guarantee everybody can come back because, again, Loki's dead. They can't take the time stone all the way back to before that because then they have to live through Thanos again. You know what I'm saying? So certain deaths have to stay fixated in time because the time stone wasn't at play at that point. So Thanos can only control so much of that time. So he hadn't used that feature at all on the gauntlet. so far in the movie because he didn't have the stone till towards the end. So he finally uses the gauntlet and he turns back time to Vision, and Scarlet Witch is screaming no, and he knocks her out, and he rips the fucking stone out of Vision's head, and he goes gray. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking savage and dark and awesome. And then he's got all 6. And oh shit, oh no, what are we gonna do? Well, you think it's all done. Thor, out of fucking nowhere, buries Stormbreaker right into the fucking chest of Thanos, and you're like, oh, Thanos might actually be dead from this. Like, this is fucking bad. And
except he should have went for the head.
You should have went for the head, and he snaps his fingers. And existence.
Why couldn't he have just fucking chopped the dude's arm off? My God.
I don't know.
Think, Thor, think.
Well, because they're in
the
the
arm
heat of
with the
battle.
gauntlet, just chop it off.
Yeah, it's smart.
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
I
it's
would
a
have
smart
done.
thought. But who knows? So he snaps his fingers, and as he snaps his fingers, because again, the thing is in his chest, he snaps his fingers, and instead of him just like, everything's done, everything's cool, he goes into an orange space. And this, I want to bring this up to you, it's very important. He's in this orange, bubbly space, and there's one other thing embodying that whole space, and it's little Gamora. The embodiment, the spirit of Gamora. His little girl is in this space, meaning Gamora dead? I don't think so. I think she's actually in
The Soul
the
Stone.
Soul Stone, and she'll find a way out. She's one of the ones I think that's safe from permanent death. There are some others I don't think so. Like I said,
Loki's gone.
definitely gone.
Heimdall's gone.
Definitely gone. Vision probably definitely gone, unless Shuri can use the information to synthetically create a new Mind Stone to put in him
Vision,
to bring him back.
It's 50-50 for me. We'll see.
We'll see. Exactly. We will
see.
see. We're uncertain. Obviously, we learned that Ant-Man and Hawkeye both have taken deals and are going to be on house arrest and stay away from. They've pretty much retired,
Right.
So we don't have to worry about them.
We can just catch them.
And
Ant-Man
Thanos
Wasp.
is like, when we get back to Thanos and the Soul Stone, he's like, oh shit, I'm not
not dead.
There's not a cavity in my chest that means I'm dying. This is good. This is great. Okay, cool.
So he had the time to heal and.
But then we go back to everything else. Because he actually, after the snap, it comes back to him still in the same space with the axe in his chest. And the gauntlet's all fucked up looking. And then he uses the Power Stone, meaning the gauntlet, or he uses the Space Stone, meaning the gauntlet.
The gauntlet still works.
And
yeah.
he phases away. And as he phases away, shit starts to get really weird because Bucky says, Steve, and just goes into nothing. He disappears. And then Falcon disappears. And
Turns to ash.
And Okoye's laying there, and Black Panther says, now is not the time to die. And then he disappears. And then everything's fucked up. And then we go to Titan. And also a lot of Wakandans disappearing, right?
Yeah.
And you're seeing this just like, what the fuck? Scarlet Witch disappears. Vision is dead, but Scarlet Witch disappears. And then we go to Titan. And Drax is starting to disappear after Mantis disappears.
Yeah, that was sad.
And then,
Titan was the saddest part of the movie.
And then Stark says, keep it together, Quill. And Quill goes, oh, man. And he disappears. And the one that hurts the most, and
of
I'll
course,
explain why.
Spidey.
You know why it hurts more? He has spider sense. Everyone else didn't know what was happening till right at the very last second. He was feeling everyone else dying before and didn't know what was coming, and then actually was physically
that
feeling
sucks.
himself blink out of existence because of spider sense.
Yeah, I felt like they went a little too cheesy during that scene. It kind of made me mad.
Man,
it took me out of it a little bit.
Oh, it didn't. It got me because it was like, oh, perfect. Oh, I don't want Mr. Stark. I don't want to go. And then it's the scene we've seen in the trailer where Tony's just hand on face, baffled.
Yeah, because
Nebula,
Thanos did it.
and Nebula says Thanos did it. He's done it. It's happened. And then we go back, and Thanos is there,
Enjoying the sunrise. Exactly
like
what he
said.
wanted. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a harsh way to end the movie.
He's like, all I want to do is wake up and enjoy a sunrise
And rest.
and bask in the enjoyment of a safe universe. Or what did he say? Not safe. He used a different word. A grateful universe. Yeah, and so then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, and they just ended it like savages.
And then the Russos were even more savage because they set up what you thought was after credit by how they utilized their music cue. Like, mid credits happening. And then it wasn't.
Super rude.
It
and then
wasn't.
they made you wait till the end of the fucking credits.
And those were long.
They were
Lots and lots
super
of
long.
credits.
I hate that they do that. Like, I love the little epilogues, but I really hate that they make you wait till the very end. Because at that point in the movie, I'm like, I've got like a large Coke that's already in my body. I need to pee. I'm done. I just need to go.
Drama.
Yeah.
So,
And credits.
After credits is Maria Hill's voice. And she's talking to Nick Fury, and they're in a car together, and they're driving. And all of a sudden, the car in front of them fucking wrecks. And they jump out, and Maria Hill goes to check on the driver, but no one's there. What? Because they were blinked out of existence. And then there's a helicopter, and it fucking just wrecks into this building. And you're like, what the fuck? And Nick Fury's like, code red. Something's definitely wrong. And he looks, and Hill starts to disappearing. And he's like, what the fuck? And he realizes what's going on, so he rushes to the car, and he grabs this beeper pager thing, and he pushes this thing and activates it as he starts to disappear and say, mother... and then he's gone, and the beeper hits the ground, and it's sending ... and then boom, you get Captain Marvel's logo, and she's appearing. So essentially the Captain Marvel movie...
I'm excited for that.
That movie's going to be set in 1990s. Young Nick Fury, 2 eyes. We'll probably learn how he loses his one eye. We'll also probably have that movie be the point where Brie Larson gives him that pager and says, look,
Right.
if shit's bad enough...
Because who else has a pager unless it's from the 90s?
Exactly. But she's going to say, look, if
you ever need
shit's
me.
bad enough, because I'm not going to be on Earth because I'm too strong for that. You guys are not going to face any threats right now that are worthy of me being here. I can go out into space and fight the Skrull, because that's what the movie's also going to be about. And if you need me, though, push this and I'll come. And so I'm thinking her post-credit will be literally her showing up on Earth to see the pager, no Nick Fury, and looking for answers. And that'll be the after credits to Captain Marvel. I digress on that. Anyways.
Okay, yeah, I could see it.
There are a lot of things to think about. The next Avengers movie, you could have the cast that was blinked out of existence in Soul World, where possibly
we were
Soul
talking about
World
that.
Adam Warlock could be before he officially makes his life appearance in Guardians 3. He could be a spirit appearance first. Makes sense, as the guardian of the spirit world. And then you've got, Gamora.
There's a lot of different ways they could go with it.
Because then you have a narrative where those guys are trying to escape Soul World with Adam Warlock saying, look, there's only one way and it's going to demand a sacrifice. And then you've got all the other Avengers trying to undo what Thanos did by coming together with Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, and Hawkeye and all these people to go take the fight to Thanos one last time. However the fuck they're going to figure out how to do that. So the narrative
I
moving
feel like it's
forward,
going to probably end with Captain America biting it.
I think either Cap or Tony will have to sacrifice themselves to undo all of the deaths.
Well, I feel like Tony already had his big almost death scene in Infinity War,
But
so it's Cap's turn.
But I think that's the tease. I think that was their way to gauge what the audience will do when Tony dies, was by literally stabbing him in the chest in the movie and making you go, holy fuck, he's gonna fucking die. And then they took it away from us.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm really super fucking excited for the next Avengers movie. I'm excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp that comes out in July. Super stoked for Captain Marvel in March.
Lots of great Marvel movies to look forward to, and I did really enjoy catching up, with our exclusive Patreon stuff with the Road to Infinity War, listening to everybody's reviews leading up to this big movie that we've all been waiting for. And I thought it was really fun.
It was fun, and it was a lot of work, and the movie was epic and huge, and this podcast
it was worth
is
the
epic
wait.
and huge, and a lots of thoughts and theories and stuff and facts and whatnot. And obviously you guys have heard some of the other guys talk about their opinions, and they gave spoilery reviews and thoughts and stuff. And hopefully we didn't overly tread on each other's water too much, but we did it in kind of our own unique way. So I think this is going to be really fun experience for you folks. As always, I want to say you can check out the Journey into Comics podcast at journeyintocomics.com and on all the different podcasting platforms, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, and Spotify. Just search Journey into Comics Network. You get all of our shows, except for Game Addicts. Go to GameAddictsPodcast.com or search Game Addicts Podcast on all those podcasting platforms as well. Subscribe to them. Then you get some gaming news as well. Make sure to check Journey into Comics out on all the different social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Journey into Comics on your Facebook and your Instagrams, and on Twitter, JIC Network, folks. Veronica, I want to say thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. It was fun.
It was fun, and it's been a long, arduous journey to the Infinity War.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these movies together over the past few years, and I love it.
Me too. It just feels like a couple things. Now we're only just beginning, because now we got to figure out what happens on the other side of this, because it was complete movie, start, middle, end. Mm-hmm. Thanos won, though, and then that was kind of it. Mm-hmm. Like, Thanos wins.
Surprise, Thanos wins.
Fuck, okay. So it's like, what do we have to spin out from that? Where can we go from there?
Yeah,
How do we tell stories? Obviously, Ant-Man and the Wasp will be your movie that is from Civil War to Infinity War, in the middle there, and maybe somebody in that universe gets blinked out of existence that brings Scott Lang and company into the fold to the fight. Maybe Hawkeye's family all disappears, and he goes to fight because his whole family's disappeared. I don't know. Can't be retired if you got nobody to go home to.
That's awful. Jeez.
I mean, just keeping it real.
Poor Hawkeye.
Well, I mean, he wasn't in the movie, so,
Even Jeremy Renner's like, oh, poor Hawkeye.
Nobody likes Hawkeye, not even Hawkeye, So, no, but I love Hawkeye.
I love Hawkeye. There's nothing wrong with him. What'd he do? What did he do, you guys?
Yeah. It's just because he uses a bow and arrow, and everybody thinks that's lame. He's like the he's like the Aquaman of the Avengers, except for it's not talking to fish; it's shooting a bow and arrow.
Okay,
it's a little old fashioned, but no, this movie just does a really great job overall of giving you everything. I will say, they don't tell you all the names of all the characters. Like you were talking about how the Black Order doesn't get named completely. Only the one character does. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you necessarily even needed to know their names, because they were just like the fucking...
You knew who they were, what they were there for.
The fucking Thanos,
Right.
The people that were there to fuck shit up. So, Kevin Feige today said 2025 is the end game as of right now for the MCU.
For the MCU.
So, I mean, they're just saying...
So they're putting a cap on it.
No. They're saying right now their plans run.
Oh, they've only developed until
2025.
2025. I see.
Think about that.
Because they're not ever going to let this show go. They're going to keep this going until they run out of
I think what you would do is, at some point when the well starts to run dry on what you currently have with your characters, because you can only run all these characters so long because these people will get old and die and stuff
Well, you have to think by 2025... who's going to be owning what properties, what rights are going to be at what theaters.
It's Disney.
It might all be Disney. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it. I mean, especially if they get X-Men. We were talking about House of Men, or House of M. House of Men.
Because you said
House
X-Men,
of M. X-Men, yeah. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen.
M, how dope would it be to use that as your introduction point, considering in that universe, mutants don't exist? So maybe Scarlet Witch has made it to where mutants don't exist and we don't know it.
I don't know.
I mean,
the world is, the possibilities are endless.
The possibilities are definitely endless, but I think that's going to do it. Ultimately, I'm going to say this movie was a 10 out of 10. Actually, it's a 15 out of 15. I'm going to go 5 extra.
Wow.
Because it's 3 perfect movies in one movie. There are 3 separate narratives with 3 separate teams. You've got Tony Stark and the Guardian story that is intertwined with Thor and the Guardian story. Then you've got the Wakanda story, and then overarching you have Thanos' story. That all intertwine in such a beautiful way and coalesce and come together in such a meaningful manner. Think about what's going to happen with Tony Stark when he and Nebula have to figure out how to get off Titan.
Right.
Because they're just there on Titan.
Right.
At first, I thought to myself, Tony was there by himself. After the second watch, I was like, oh, Nebula's still there. So he's not totally just fucking stranded and a human stranded on
I
a
forgot
foreign
that she
planet.
was still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's there because she shows up and wrecks one of the ships from fucking the Dark Aether or whatever in the fucking first Guardians movie. She wrecks it into Thanos
Yeah,
to
I
try
remember
to
that.
stop him. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a great movie. I would recommend it, and I enjoyed talking about it for the past couple of months with everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
we're finally moving on in our journey of Marvel, and I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm really actually pretty excited because they, like you said, the possibilities are genuinely endless. So again, thank you so much, V, for coming on today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. You guys have heard from everybody else on the network now. We've recapped, they've recapped, we've given spoilers, they've given spoilers, we gave our non-spoiler, they gave our non-spoiler. We mashed it all up into a blender. This is the episode you got. This was Journey into Comics. Journey into Comics 189. Journey into Comics 189. Infinity War. I've been Nate.
I'm Veronica.
And as always, folks, use that Infinity Gauntlet to fill your brain with shit.